Good morning, my Teacher King family. How is everybody today? Had a good day yesterday, except for the New Orleans game with Tampa. I hit my other, I think I had 5 locks, and I avoided the Clint Tennessee under, which was good. Sometimes it's not what you win, it's what you avoid. Avoided that. Yes, this is a very lucky sweatshirt lately, so that's why I'm wearing it so much, although I need to clean it, I guess. The fuck is this? All right. So let's do a rundown. I had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 locks this week, of which I go 3-0 in college and 4 and 3-1, 3-1 yesterday. So again, they were Vegas over with Boise. They were Texas Tech under. They were Ohio State under. The loser was Tampa Bay, unfortunately. I won Cincy Buffalo over, even though the weather was bad. Apparently, it doesn't matter. I think I had locked Denver, but I'm not counting it with initially with the Dallas game. The Rams were a lock, and the Houston KC under was a lock. So very good. Now, why so many locks? Well, it's just the way it came. Ohio State was clearly an under, and Texas Tech, great defensive teams. You're not getting a lot of points in those games. Yesterday, we had the Rams off of a loss having to win. Should have locked Seattle. I was a little afraid of them going across the country. So but we know how Kirk Cousins is. The Houston under was easy with KC, 2 good defenses. I played the Bears, but I didn't lock them. Denver, like I said, I do believe I locked it, but I didn't even count them in this. And then Cincinnati, Buffalo over. So the only big loser I really had was Tampa Bay. That was shocking that they lost to New Orleans. And the way they lost, it was raining, but the way they lost was Tyler Shaw running for 2 touchdowns. He was being sacked, and he escaped, and then he ran. And just, what kind of defensive coordinator do you have? What kind of idiot do you have? Because he can't throw to beat you. So it's just shocking that Tampa, in a must-win game, loses. Now they're tied with Carolina at 6-6. Just amazing. Greg and John, hi, good morning. So that was the only surprise. So if we go through it, Pitt beats Baltimore, Lamar, terrible. Well, let me put the scores in. Let's see. All right, Pitt wins 27-22. What can you say? Lamar's just horrible. Jacksonville 36-19. I did play Jacksonville. Jones gets hurt, and so that definitely hurt Indy that game. But Jacksonville's playing good. Like I said, they're an A team, so they played really well. New Orleans 24-20, unbelievable. The reason I locked Tampa was they were at home, they had to win, and here you've got New Orleans, a Z team with Tyler Shaw, who's not a good quarterback. Again, they won because he ran for 2 touchdowns, not because he threw for 2 touchdowns. So we're getting a very strange league where the quarterbacks are running way too much, And the defenses apparently aren't aware of this or what? I don't know. Miami 34-10 over the JETSs. I did not see games like that. You don't know what happens. I did like the game over 41.5, 35.5, but I didn't play it. Minnesota 31-0. I thought when Daniels was starting that they would score points and JJ McCarthy wouldn't get it. So a very surprising score there. Tennessee 31, Cleveland 29. I liked the game under because of the quarterbacks being so bad and the weather wasn't great, but I don't know where you got 60 points with this mess. This shows you how bad they are. Prime did throw for a few touchdowns. I don't know what to say about him. He's terrible. The second lock, Buffalo 39, Cincy 34, 73. I'm over 52.5, so 46. And we had that early. Halftime was 21-11, and it quickly goes 21-18. I need one more touchdown to get to 46. And then I get a touchdown, and then Burrow throws a pick six. It was a strange pick six because he was lobbing it over the defensive end who jumped up and caught it and ran in for a touchdown. Seattle wins 37-9. I had Seattle. Denver wins 24-17. And, they play the close games, but they win. The Rams 45-17. That was a double lock. I loved that one, especially when I saw all the players hurt. And then you saw the spread go from 7 to 9.5. Well, it didn't matter. I already liked the spread. Or it was 8 to 9.5. Green Bay 28, Chicago 21. We learned something about Chicago that maybe they are for real. They ran it down Green Bay's throat. As I said, the only way to beat Micah Parsons is you got to run at them, which they did. And they looked much better in the second half. Green Bay had their moments. The Bears' defense isn't all. So that's their weak point, but they score. So they're a good over team. And the total was 44. I liked it over, but I played the Bears in 12.5. So that would be 38. They get a 49. Raiders are terrible. Yes, we know that. And then last night, Houston 20-10. I played the under in a lock, in the double lock. Houston with this great defense. CJ Stroud stinks. So they're a perfect under team. And Mahomes just no time to throw, nobody open. Kelsey, I saw drop a pass for an interception when he bobbled it and it went through it right into the other guy. Kelsey's all done, and that's the problem with KC this year. That's the second time he did it to Philadelphia where he bobbles the ball and it gets intercepted instead of just catching it. So that's their problem, KC, right now, because the other receivers, Rice and Worthy and other guys just aren't. They're okay. They're nothing special. They don't know how to get open. You got Mahomes, but who's he going to throw to? So he throws to Kelsey, who can't catch. They don't run with Pacheco, especially against the teams. And tonight we got Philly, San Diego. We have Philly with Jalen Carter out, minus 242. So I haven't played this game. Now, I had played it and I deleted it once I heard Carter was out. So I really haven't played it. My initial reaction was to go under. San Diego, Herbert with the broken hand. What's he going to do? Jalen Hurts stinks. They got the defense. Philly's lost 2 games in a row. But Philly's play against this year 11-1. This is a San Diego play, except I don't trust Harbaugh and I don't trust Herbert. And Philly's off 2 games, a 2-game losing streak, but this isn't the game to play Philly on. You want to play them against New Orleans or Washington or one of the shit teams like Tampa had. It's amazing Tampa lost that game. I saw there was 10-7. I went to the pool. I go, okay, let's check the scores. And I'm expecting to see them win by 10 or something. And they lost. I was like, no. I think San Diego is going to win. Who you got winning the AFC? I don't look at it like that. If we look at the AFC, we can look at it. Let's look at the standings. I mean, you got New England 11-2. They haven't played anybody. They did beat Buffalo. They get Buffalo next week. We'll see. I think that will lead us to it. Pitt 7-6. Cincinnati 4-9. I think they're a good team. Their defense is getting a little better. Jacksonville is now 9-4. Houston 8-5. Indy went from 7-1. They're 8-5. They're going to their true colors. Houston, very good defense. Just need a quarterback. Jacksonville, I don't know what they are this year. They're 9-4. They're playing very good ball. Denver 11-2. San Diego 8-4. KC 6-7. I don't think KC makes the playoffs. San Diego's not. I think Denver at 11-2 probably wins. They're the best team. They're better than New England. Baltimore's in trouble. KC's in trouble. Buffalo. We'll see if they can beat New England. So this is a weird year. This is the problem with the stupid schedule where you've got the Jets in Miami playing Cleveland and Cincy, playing Tennessee, playing Oakland, and Kansas City playing Houston and Baltimore and Cincinnati and New England and Buffalo and Philadelphia and Detroit and the Rams. And so the good teams are playing the good teams, and you're getting these skewed results that are not indicative. I mean, KC just, okay, you get to play Houston. Oh, Thanksgiving, Dallas. They got San Diego coming up, Denver coming up. KC's not getting the Clevelands and the Oakland. Well, they do get Oakland, but that's it. They get Oakland twice. Otherwise, it's very good teams, and that's what's hurting them, right? Because they're not getting, like Buffalo at least gets Miami twice and the Jets twice, although they did. Did they lose to Miami? No, it was Baltimore lost to Miami, I think. Or maybe, it was Buffalo. So even a team like Miami, 6-7, but in real they're 2-12 because, again, they got the easy schedule. So the schedule is terrible. You're scheduling too many good teams and too many weak play the week. You're not really getting a fair read on the teams. So I would say Denver's the best team in the AFC. The Rams are probably the best in the NFC. If you look at the NFC today, Philly at 8-4 play tonight. Dallas has already lost 6-6. Green Bay 9-3. Chicago 9-4. Detroit 8-5. Detroit's got to play Chicago later. And that'll be the key because Chicago has got a 1-game lead. So it looks Green Bay's now up 4 games on Detroit because it's 2-3. It's a game and a half, but since they swept them, it's really 2.5 games. And the Bears lost to Detroit, but they play them at the end. So that's probably for the wild card thing. You've got Tampa and Carolina at 7-6, 2 different teams, but Tampa's, you kind of got to stay away from Tampa. It's weird because they needed the game against fucking New Orleans and they lose, and you're just shaking your head. They were at home, raining, but who cares? Then you got the Rams at 10-3, Seattle 10-3, and the Niners 9-4. So those 3 are in. Probably Tampa. I can't imagine Carolina, and then you got Green Bay and right now Chicago, maybe Detroit, and then you got Philadelphia. should win the league. I think they beat Dallas twice. So the wild cards are coming out of Seattle, the Niners, and the Rams, and then it looks like they beat Detroit at the end. So we got 5 games to go. Oh no, we don't. It's 13. We got Philly plays, so we got 4 games to go. So this will be interesting. But I think that right now the Rams are the best. They got Stafford, Pukanuka, and Devontae Adams. Good running, good defense. They're the most complete team. Pretty good coach. Prophet, how are you? So if the Raiders can run the table here, losing the remainder of the, they will have the first overall pick in the draft, and I hope they take Mendoza here. No, you don't hope they take Mendoza. You hope they take Dagiopava. But let's see. The Jets 3-2, Cleveland 3. The Oakland and Tennessee with 2 wins. The Giants with 2 wins. New Orleans really screwed themselves because now they got 3 wins. And Arizona with 3. So New Orleans should not have won yesterday. So you've got you've got 3 teams with 2 wins: Oakland, Tennessee, and the Giants. The Giants are pretty good for only 2 wins. They were scoring. So that's what you have there. I think Pavia is better, Prophet. Yeah, he's definitely better. Mendoza, what did he do against Ohio State? I mean, you got to realize Ohio State is like a pro team, right? So if he struggles there, he's going to struggle in the pros. I don't like when I see like Shaw yesterday or Prime Jr., Ward, when they're out running. Like that's a good thing, right? I mean, that's not a good thing to do is run. I want a quarterback that can throw. And that's we've seen Lamar, we've seen his story running. And then like yesterday, they couldn't beat Pitt. At the end of the game, they needed to win. He missed Mark Andrews, or Baltimore could have won the game. That's the problem. I didn't know what to do with that game. It turns out it's an over. Total was 43. I liked it under. Well, it actually hit 49, so it actually just make a teaser in the game. But I couldn't tell you what Baltimore was going to do. Pitt gets 27 points. Aaron Rodgers is running the ball in. Are you kidding me? So this is the problem. You don't know what you have with Baltimore's and Pittsburgh's. And half the teams, I don't know what I'm getting. So that's why I play a lot of totals. I really don't know who's going to win. Like Cincinnati, Buffalo, didn't know who was going to win. I did like Joe Burrow as a dog always, but I knew it would go over. And that's why I locked it. Same thing with Denver. I knew they'd win. And the Rams, I knew they'd win. And Seattle, I knew they'd win. And Tampa, I knew they would win, except they didn't. And then I had Jacksonville. And then Houston, I thought would win, but I didn't want to fuck with Mahomes, so I went under. And that's basically what you're doing. You're analyzing the games, and it's funny. This guy's like with this closing line value. How would that have helped you? And what game would it have helped me with? I don't even know what it is and how it works, but I look at the game and I pick it, and I went 7-3. I mean, well, actually, I went 7-2 yesterday, losing Tampa, which no matter what the closing line was, I wouldn't have gotten away with it. And then a small play on Washington because Daniels played, and J.J. McCarthy had a good day. But, that was a small play, Washington, not like the others. The others were locks and big plays. So that's why you can't really, even though I went 7-2 yesterday, you can't really look at it like, well, yeah, but I lost a little one and I won most of my locks. Never seen Pavia play. How good is he? He's very good. He's up for the Heisman. He'll probably win it. Well, go look. Don't you have YouTube? Go on YouTube and watch the Vanderbilt Tennessee game, and you go, yeah, he's good. He was good at New Mexico State, where I found him We've been betting him for the last 3 years and making a ton of money on him. He can run, but he's a passer. So where Lamar's a runner and not really a good quarterback, Pavia is a really good quarterback who can also run. He's very strong, but he's a winner. He'll win you the game. He hits the wide open receivers, good arm, but he can run. Third and 3, he'll get you the first down. Best quarterback in college. Forget Mendoza. This whole thing with Mendoza and Salin and Simpson at Alabama. Look at Simpson. He sucks. He gets in a big game and he didn't show up. The guy from Ohio State didn't show up. And the guy from Indiana didn't show up. Pavia in a big game against Tennessee showed up. Against Alabama showed up. Against Texas showed up. So he shows up. And again, there's only so much the quarterback can do, but Mendoza, they got him up there because they're undefeated. Well, but it's not him. He's got good running backs. He's got a good defense, good coach. He ain't the best quarterback. So let's look at our teaser trends. Jacksonville 6-0 as a home dog wins. Play against New Orleans as a road dog. Well, that was 10-1. It's now 10-2. Play against the Jets 25-4. It's now 26-4. Play against Tennessee. That's a push. Cleveland was 4 and they won. They lost by 2, so they would have pushed. Cincinnati, Buffalo play against Cincy as a road dog, 7-1. Play against Buffalo as a home favorite, 4-0. Play Buffalo as a home favorite, 11-2. All that won. Seattle, 12-2 as a road dog, now 13-2. Denver, 28-2 is now 29-2. 5-0 as a road favorite, now 6-0. 12-0 this year, now 13-0. Play against Oakland as a home dog, 8-1 is now 9-1. The Rams, 26-5 is now 27-5. 8-1 road favorite, now 9-1. Play against Arizona as a home dog, now 7-1. And play against Arizona, now 12-1. And then you understand why I locked the Rams. Plus, they were off of a loss, and you knew they were going to be fired up. Green Bay, 11-2 is a home favorite, now 12-2. Houston, 9-0 is a road dog, 10-0. 28-3, now 29-3. 12-0, now 13-0. The temperatures really didn't bother Green Bay. It went up to about 17 degrees, but it really didn't bother anybody. Oh, my fucking internet, come on. Hopefully it'll act. Come on. Okay. Am I still there, Greg and John? I know I paused, but I think I'm still there. Let me just check. So somebody just give me a okay, I'm still on, please.
You know the words.
I'm just checking. Am I still on? I'm just checking. Okay. Thank you, Greg and John. Profit. So anyway, yeah, it's that's why we do the teaser trends. Because if I just followed them blindly, I would have, the only game I would have lost would have been Tampa. It's just, it's a psychology thing. Teams are good. They're playing well. They're the winners. Denver, Houston. And then like Tampa's really not a big trend. Play against Tennessee. Well, that's for 2 years. But I mean, Denver and Houston. So like this week, just play Denver and Houston in a lock, and there you go. Okay. Should win. College. So we talked colleges yesterday. Texas Tech is the best team, 34-7 over a very good BYU team. Georgia 28-7. They're coming around. Alabama should not be in the playoff. I mean, if you get destroyed against Georgia, you have no business being in the championship game. Indiana 13, Ohio State 10. Okay, they both should be there. Is Indiana the number one? I think Texas Tech's the best team. Then I would say Indiana and Ohio State, and I'd say Georgia's right up there. Duke beats Virginia. What kind of mess is that? So I would say, I don't know about Oklahoma, Texas, teams like that are They'll be in it just because of brand. People will watch the games. It's about making money. Teams that get screwed like BYU and Utah are definitely top 10 teams. Miami, I don't be in because of the losses. I don't know. They shouldn't be in. They played 3 games. They lost 2 of them. The rest was a joke. And I don't know. So that's what we got. Let's look ahead. And I think we only have Army Navy this week. The CFP made an example of Notre Dame and burned its credibility in the process. Notre Dame left out, as they should have been. When you play a shit schedule, even the teams they beat, Miami didn't even make, wasn't a very good team. And A&M, as we find out, isn't a very good team. And USC was decent, but not great. I hear Notre Dame will not play in the bowl game. Who does that hurt? Just them. Here's why Duke didn't make the CFP after winning the ACC title. See, then why do you have the championship games? If the winner should be in the playoff, and yet Duke wins, and yet they're not in the playoff, then what was the point of playing it? And you fucked Virginia over. All right, here is the playoff. First round buys: Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech. I don't get the buys at all. First round games: James Madison at number 5, Oregon. I don't really get this game. Tulane, I don't know why they're in, goes to Ole Miss. Miami against Texas A&M. I don't get why Texas A&M's in, and I don't get why Miami's in. Alabama at Oklahoma again. They've already played. Oklahoma already beat them. I don't get that. I don't get why Alabama's in with 3 losses. It's James Madison 12-1. What are they going to lose by 30 to Oregon? I'm not sure why Oregon. I mean, these are not very good games. And I don't like that the games at Oregon. These should be neutral fields. Tulane at Ole Miss. Tulane's got no chance. Miami at A&M. Maybe that'll be a game. And Alabama at Oklahoma. All right, that could be a game, but the Alabama team I just watched, you got to be kidding. The CFP doesn't have to justify Miami over Notre Dame. Miami beat Notre Dame, and of course, so that's Notre Dame shouldn't be in. I do question James Madison's a good team. They're a Sun Belt team. They're not shouldn't be in this. And I don't know why you need a team of 5 in there, but the team of 5 I would have had in there is North Texas, who got fucked in that Tulane game. So that's what we have. So interesting. Let's make a point spread. This is just winging it. I haven't seen a spread. Oregon -10 over James Madison. Tulane at Ole Miss. Ole Miss -10 over Tulane. Miami and A&M. A&M 3 over Miami. And Alabama at Oklahoma. Oklahoma by 3 because they're at home. Alabama looked pretty shitty, so I don't know. They really shouldn't be in with 3 losses. I would have rather have saw USC or Texas beat Oklahoma. So the fact Oklahoma has 2 losses, but they look like shit, I don't know. So that's what we got. So let's write these in. So we've James Madison, Oregon. And we got 2 real shaky today. We'll see how long this takes. Okay, it's short, so I should be okay, but I don't like I keep getting this interruptions. Does James Madison have any chance against Indiana, Ohio State, Texas Tech, and Georgia? No. Then what's the point? Does Tulane? No. I'm not even sure Ole Miss does, or Oregon. Miami certainly has no chance, nor does A&M, nor does Alabama. We saw them against Georgia, and nor does Oklahoma. So this whole first round's a bunch of bullshit. These teams should not even be in the playoff. The top 4 are way better. So any of these 8 are not going to beat Indiana. They're not going to beat Ohio State. They're not going to beat Texas Tech. Possibly Georgia is the weak link in this. So let's go to next week. I think it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine. Why doesn't the Marines have a team? Because they're not too busy doing anything. What are they in Venezuela now? Trying to dig up the oil and the gold? All right. So this week we got Army and Navy. We got the Navy -6 and 39.5. I hate to break it to you. This is not an under unless you're getting 12 feet of snow. Navy scores. Army, this is a Navy play. Go Navy, beat Army. They got the quarterback this year. Army's a little weak. All right, so not much here. Do we have postseason bowls? Do we have those with lines? Yes, we do. Starting on 12/13. Okay, so this Saturday. Why is Boise playing Washington? See, Boise should have made the playoffs. Made more sense than Tulane and James Madison. I'm kind of shocked James Madison's in and Tulane. Boise at Washington. Well, we don't know where the game's at, but Boise against Washington, pretty even game there. Troy goes to Jacksonville State. So you get a lot of these Sun Bowl Conference USA games. I'll have to research that. That's so Saturday. So that's next Tuesday. So just Boise State at Washington. So they have something on TV. Old Dominion, South Florida. South Florida is going to kill them. They're going to kill them. They're going to kill them. Lou Lafayette, Delaware, and over. Missouri State, Arkansas State. Arkansas State, 2.5, 56.5. I have no idea. Kennesaw State goes to Western. I think, was it Eastern or Western that won? It was Western. Oh, okay. So they won, and Kennesaw State beat Jacksonville State. Okay, so this is Total of 50. Again, they don't have a line on Kennesaw State. Memphis goes to North Carolina State. Should be a good game. And then we get to, on the 19th, we get Alabama, Oklahoma. I don't really want to look at the lines at this point. Miami, A&M, Tulane, Ole Miss. So this is the 19th and 20th. Or Alabama's the 19th. The other three are the 20th on Saturday. Miami, A&M, Tulane, Ole Miss, James Madison, Oregon. All right. Then on Monday, we're getting into Christmas. Washington State, Utah State. Really? Toledo and Louisville. Western Kentucky, Southern Miss. UNLV, Ohio. California, Hawaii. Central Michigan, Northwestern. New Mexico, Minnesota. Florida International, UTSA. Oh my God. Pitt and East Carolina. Penn State and Clemson. UConn and Army. Georgia Tech, BYU. Now that's a good game. Those teams should be in the playoff. BYU for sure, and Utah. Miami of Ohio, Fresno State. North Texas, San Diego State. North Texas will kill them. Virginia and Missouri. LSU, Houston. This will be low scoring. Georgia Southern, App State. Coastal Carolina, L Tech. Tennessee, Illinois. USC, TCU, a good game. Iowa, Vanderbilt. Ooh, Daggio. So, Prophet, watch Daggio and that. It's on 31st at noon, the request ball. It's a Wednesday, Iowa, Vanderbilt. So, keep your eye on Daggio there. Arizona State goes to Duke. Michigan and Texas. What's the point? Nebraska, Utah. Utah will kill them. And then on the 31st, Ohio State. And then on the 1st, Texas Tech at noon, Indiana at 4, and Georgia, the 8 o'clock game. They've ruined New Year's Day. Then we go to the second, Rice, Texas State, Navy, Cincinnati, Arizona, SMU, and Wake Forest, Old Mississippi State. I don't get 90% of these bowl games. Is anybody even going to go to them? Just the families, it'll be like softball. You know, with my daughter, there's just the parents in the crowd. I mean, that's about what you got. Otherwise, Vandy, right? The Marines would dominate, yeah. And the Navy SEALs, they should have their own team. They'd play the game underwater. So now the problem with Arizona, SMU, and let's say the Nebraska, Utah game, Michigan, Texas, are you getting the players to play? Michigan, Texas, I guarantee you half the Michigan team won't play. They never do. So you're running, I'd rather bet Rice and Texas State. At least I know who I'm getting. Nobody from those teams are sitting out. It's the Michigans, it's Arizona State, Duke, USC, TCU. You don't even know if Daggio is going to play Iowa, Vanderbilt. This is the problem with the bowls. He's at 9 p.m. with TCU, and all of a sudden, they're not playing. So, okay. Got to keep with this internet. It's crazy. So that's the problem that you get in these bowl games. And then nobody goes. Who's going to see USC, TCU? Even more so, who's going to go see, Rice, Texas State? There's going to be 5 people there. So I don't get the bowls. Rice is not even 500. They're 5-7. So you got more bowl games than you have teams that finish, and not like 6-6 is a good thing, right? The whole scope of the bowl was to reward you for a good season, and you had to have a certain record. It had to be over 500. I mean, this is bullshit. Rice 5-7 gets rewarded with the bowl, and then what do you hear on the radio or the TV? Oh, they went to a bowl game. Look how good the program. No, they're 5-7. All right, so we will write this up. So again, on the 13th, we got Boise and Washington. Was that? Yeah, that's this Saturday. So we got Army Navy on the 13th and Boise, Washington. That's 9 p.m. Boise, Washington. And we got Washington 8.5, 51.5. All right. So I got to update. I don't have to update a lot because we had 6, 7 games last week, 9 games. So I will pull in my new stats. I don't even know if that matters. How much would it move? All right. Indiana won 13-10. All right. So Ohio State was a 7 defense. There may be an 8, and Indiana was an 11. They gave up 10. So really not a lot to change there. Maybe I get a little difference on the quarterbacks. Oh no, the playoffs are 12-19. All right, very bad internet for it's a little cold here, but shouldn't really affect it. All right. So we'll get more into that as I bring in the data and study it. And now we got week 15 in the NFL. And let's write in the games. I mean, it's funny with Denver. We know they don't blow out too often. They do once in a while, but they win the games, and that's the important stuff. I knew they wouldn't be flat like yesterday. All right, next week, Thursday night, Atlanta versus T-Bay. Off of their loss. And then we go normal, Arizona and Houston. The NYJ, the JETSs, play Jacksonville. Oakland goes to Philly. See, that's the game we were waiting for. So we hope Philly loses tonight, and then a 3-game, and then they get Oakland, and they'll kill them. Washington goes to the Giants. Buffalo and New England, game of the week. San Diego and KC. Baltimore, Cincinnati. Ooh, since he's the dog. Oh, I love it. Cleveland and Chicago. Chicago's playing well. Indy and Seattle. Tennessee, San Francisco. Carolina and New Orleans. Detroit, LA. Green Bay goes to Denver. Minnesota, Dallas. Famous Orange game in 1973. And Miami goes to Pittsburgh. 1972 playoff game. They went on a fake punt, Miami. I will put the line in later. I think we looked at the standings. So what do we got? Arizona at Houston. All right. The Jets at Jacksonville. Jacksonville is playing really well. Oakland goes to Philly. Philly will kill them. Washington, the Giants. Who cares? Buffalo, New England. I saw New England as a favorite. That's what we're waiting for. Give me Buffalo as the dog in a game they must win. Josh Allen. That's what we wait. And then we'll see really how good New England is. New England at home is a favorite. This will tell us how good they are. Joe Montana at home is the favorite, would win every time. I don't know that Drake May at home as the favorite is going to be Buffalo. San Diego, KC. KC's still in it, but they just aren't very good. Baltimore goes to Cincinnati. Again, we bet Joe Burrow. Cleveland at Chicago. Chicago needs it. Indy goes to Seattle. Seattle needs it. Indy quarterback's out. And I think who is the quarterback? The backup. He's not ready. Riley Leonard, I think. So he's terrible. Tennessee goes to the Niners. Carolina goes to New Orleans in what might be a better game, but we'll see. I mean, I don't trust Carolina. Detroit goes to the Rams, and that's going to be a hard game for them. But the Rams defense and Stafford could get ugly. Green Bay goes to Denver in a very, very strong game here. Minnesota goes to Dallas. Dallas needs it, I guess. And Miami at Pitt. Pitt needs it, so we'll see. But can we trust Pitt? You don't know what team's going to show up most of the time. So that's what we have. So the big game is New England Buffalo, with Buffalo being the dog. Probably be the free play. The question is, do we trust New England? No. We know what Buffalo is, Josh Allen. So we definitely trust Josh Allen. He loses, it's going to be close. This is the beauty of the teaser. I think I saw the spread 2 or 3, New England. This is also why we bet it early. We do a quick injury check tomorrow, and as long as Josh Allen's still healthy, which I think he is, we get it now before Buffalo becomes favorite. I'd rather take Buffalo as the dog than New England as the dog. Buffalo lost the first game. They have to win to catch them. How good's New England? They haven't played too many good teams this year, so we don't really know. But we will find out. Philadelphia, we hope, loses tonight. Then they'll be on a 3-game losing streak, and they get Oakland, and they're going to kill them. And that might be a game that we bet tomorrow morning. If I saw 12.5. So Philly's 12.5, and they've lost tonight, bet it before it goes to 15. See, that's why I don't care what the closing line is. I'm not waiting that long to bet the game. I'm betting it. Boom. Philly will need it. I don't care if it snows, rains, or it's 10 degrees there. They're gonna kill them. Then you got your shit games, Washington, the Giants. Jacksonville's playing very well. We'll have to see. Arizona, Houston. There's Houston, and then there's Denver is at home to Green Bay. That'll be very interesting. 2 strong defenses playing. Micah Parsons against the whole Denver defense, so it could be an under. I think Detroit, LA is looking as an over. As Detroit has no defense, Stafford's going to go wild, especially he wants revenge against Detroit. And then you've got Detroit, apparently, okay, they had a good offense against Dallas, but it doesn't count because Dallas isn't a good defensive team. So you got to see it's all the defense. Who's Detroit playing? Do they have a good defense? Then just don't touch them. I got confused because Dallas had, shut down Philadelphia for 3 quarters, then against Kansas City, but it was 31-28. So I should have played the game over. My mistake, but we learned from our mistakes. That's all you can do. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. But that's why we analyze what happened, what was our mistake, how could we have prevented it, and then going forward, you don't make the same mistake. That was a mistake. This will probably be an over game. Stafford will throw for 5 touchdowns, and I assume Golf coming back will do that. So I think that's what we have there. Green Bay, Denver, a good game. Let's see. Baltimore, Cincy, I guess, San Diego, KC, Buffalo, New England, Oakland, Philly, and there's Atlanta, Tampa. What a shit game on Thursday. There, I would think Tampa would win. Tampa's banged up, though. And, again, it was in the rain, and Tyler Shaw ran for 2 touchdowns. They played good defense. And they didn't realize Shaw runs, and he doesn't. One was a sack. He's about to be sacked. He breaks out of it, and he scores. It's like, what? Where was their offense against the shit New Orleans defense? But the New Orleans defense is, it's a 21, so it's not bad. And they gave up 20 yesterday. So it's about a 20 defense. So it's getting better, New Orleans. New Orleans. So you're probably playing an under team or a W team with New Orleans. Who do they got? They got Carolina. Okay. But Atlanta's pretty weak, and we all know how bad Kirk Cousins is. Tampa, Tampa has to win, so we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what the spread is. You get burned once, you don't want to get burned twice, so I got to be careful with them. But how much is Atlanta going? They have a decent defense, so we'll see. All right, so that's looking at college, the playoff. So James Madison at Oregon, Tulane, Ole Miss, Miami and A&M, and Alabama and Oklahoma. And they play 24-20. Oklahoma won. I don't know where Alabama's offense will stay. One guy's injured. So let's see if Jamler gets back. Like, that's going to help him. 7 points on Georgia. Georgia's defense isn't that good. And it was young. So they said, they grew up. I don't know. No, Alabama sucked. All right, tonight, Philadelphia 2 and 42. Hurts and Herbert. Philly play against this year 11-1. Play against as a road favorite 5-0, probably this year or the last 2 years. In the teaser, Denver, Houston, New England didn't play yesterday, and Tampa lost. So 2-1 in the games. The Denver and Houston 12-0 in the teaser, 13-0. Play against New Orleans, that one lost. Play against the Giants, I think that one. Or did they play? I don't think they played yesterday. Play against Philly, well, that's tonight. Play against Arizona, that was my lock with the Rams. Play against the Jets, Miami killed them. Play against Tennessee. It was a push, but then you were playing Cleveland, which you can't bet on. Anyway, that's what you have. So we look ahead. We look at injuries. Rodgers played okay with the broken wrist. Let's see tonight. Herbert also has the broken left hand. He'll play. He'll be very careful. See, the problem with the quarterback having the broken hand is he's thinking about the hand instead of thinking about the receivers. See, when you're healthy, you just look down, you're just playing, right? Oh, he's open. The rush is coming. So, but when you got a broken hand, even though it's your left hand, you're still thinking, well, what do I do here? Do I, I got to protect my hand. I saw Rodgers fumble the ball last week, and he was scared to move his left hand to get the ball, so he did it with his right hand. So he is conscious of the left hand being broken, but as you can see, they throw with the right hand. We'll see if Prime Jr. is still going to quarterback. He did score points, but it was Tennessee, and now we see how Tennessee's defense is. Tennessee has San Francisco; they're going to light them up. Cleveland's got Chicago. They're gonna run right through them. It's another matchup where it's Myles Garrett on the pass, but Chicago's just going to run it down their throat. And they proved it yesterday. Green Bay with their real strong defense, and the Bears just ran it down their throat in the second half. So that's the neutralizing of the pass rush, the Myles Garrett and the Micah Parsons. You run at them and you're okay. Now, I don't know how Cleveland gave up all those points with Myles Garrett. And I mean, that's crazy, but that's what happened. So anyway, let's quickly look. Teams off of a loss. Tampa Bay. And I don't care about Arizona being off a loss. I'm just the good teams. Jacksonville won. Philly, we'll see. If they lose tonight, that's 3 losses in a row. They'll kill Oakland. Then they'll have the players only meeting and stuff. Buffalo won. New England was off. I think they won the week before. Kansas City off of a loss. We'll see what happens with San Diego tonight. Baltimore off of a loss and Cincy off of a loss. Really doesn't matter. Chicago off of a loss. Seattle won. The Niners, I think, won their last game. Detroit won. And the Rams won. But look at the Rams off of the loss to Carolina. So the question is how good is Carolina? We have to understand that. They beat the fucking Rams, and the Rams are very strong. Even though the game was at home, yes, you had the travel from LA to Carolina, which definitely is an effect. You see yesterday they're going to Arizona. Half the Arizona team, sat out, but it was only an hour flight. It wasn't 4 hours. And that long flight really fucks with you. Let's see. Green Bay, Denver. Denver won. Green Bay won. Dallas is off of a loss, and then Miami, Pitt won. So really the key's Philadelphia off of the loss, and I guess Kansas City they can still go 10-7, which would get them in the playoffs, I believe. They're just not that good. Kelsey can't catch. Dollar, right? We know the dollar's collapsing, but you can't see it, right? And I think what happens is Kelsey's diminishing, right? He's losing, but you can see Kelsey, not catching the ball. It hits his head and it gets intercepted. And that's that I remember that I see that he's done that. So that's Kansas City's problem. They need to replace him, and they need to get some receivers and a running attack. The offensive line, I don't know how strong it is. Houston just killed them on the line yesterday. That was actually an easy bet. I thought about taking Houston plus 10, but I took an under, which I thought was even better because KC's got a good defense. So look for KC to get, just need some linemen and some, so the draft should be 1 or 2 linemen and 1 or 2 tight ends, receivers, and they'll be fine. So what's the surprise team? I'm surprised Tampa's kind of not as good, but they got injuries. Atlanta, you've got you don't have Penix, which is hurting them. Houston, strong defense. Jacksonville's kind of a surprise this year. Part of it's the schedule, but part of it they're running the ball more and not letting Lawrence have it because he stinks. Philly is just burnt from winning the Super Bowl, so they're a little bit falling apart. We'll see. If they can't beat Oakland, they're all done. Washington Daniels did play yesterday. They didn't do shit. The Giants lost Scatterboo Dart. I don't know why he's out there. Buffalo is about the same. New England is a surprise having the weak schedule. This will be the game that says, yes, New England's going to win the division. They're going to be the 1 seed or they're not. I don't think they'll win. San Diego, that's why they got rid of Bosa. He's always hurt. He was hurt yesterday. He didn't play. I told you that. That's why I love the over in that game yesterday. Even though it snowed and it was cold, nothing new for Buffalo, and Cincinnati plays in it. So it was really nothing new there. But what happened was you had Hendrickson out for Cincy and you had Bosa out for Buffalo. So it was a beautiful overplay. Burrow looked great in the first half. I don't know what happened in the second. I was at the pool, but I did watch the game, and it was a pick six, two pick sixes by Burrow on strange plays. The lineman jumped up and got the ball. So we'll see how good New England is. So until this is the game, right? They beat Buffalo, fine. It's sort of like Chicago going to Philly and beating them. That's why I bet them yesterday, getting 12.5 from Green Bay. It's like, okay, you went to Philly and won. Is Philly really that good? Now you went to Green Bay and played them pretty good and tied it up. Your defense is your weak point. That's why we bet them over. So they're not ready yet, but they've had a lot of injuries on defense because they were supposed to have a good defense this year. Let's see. So KC, we know. Baltimore, Lamar stinks, and their defense stinks. Cincinnati, no defense with Hendrickson hurt. Joe Burrow looks sharp. T. Higgins looks sharp, and of course, Chase is the best. Decent running attack. So since he's going to put 40 points on Cleveland, Chicago, Cleveland again, no quarterback. Decent running, and the Bears just can run it down your throat. So this coach Johnson who was at Detroit, and they ran it down your throat. He must have blocking schemes. He must understand blocking schemes because, I mean, against Green Bay and Micah Parsons, and they, 3rd and 5, and they'd get 7-8 yards. And these guys just ran it down their throat. It was unbelievable because Cleveland Gary, you got my guy number 7 from Georgia, Green Bay, and they were able to 3rd and 4, and they'd pick up 6-7 yards. So it's a blocking scheme thing. He runs all the same plays he did at Detroit. He just has Caleb, who's terrible. But they ran it. So they'll run it down Cleveland's throat. So how good are they? Well, they're not the number 1 seed. Green Bay is a better team, I think. But Chicago will be in most games. I think they're a live dog. Indy and Seattle. Indy now is hurt with Riley Leonard, the quarterback now, and Daniel Jones. I don't know if he's out. Seattle looks really good. Their Darnold's okay, and their defense is playing very strong. So if they were to play Houston, it's an under, but against normal team like the Rams, 21-19. So that's about it. So they were able to hang with the Rams. Tennessee, terrible. San Francisco is starting to they got Purdy back. They got, I think, Ayuk back, and Jennings, the other receiver, back. So look for the Niners. They're coming on strong. Carolina, I don't know. Bryce Young's terrible, but they're getting better. They're winning games, and a lot of it's been the easy schedule, but they beat fucking LA. I mean, Jesus, how did that happen? Again, they were tired. Stafford didn't look good. The team looked slow. It was like Buffalo, Miami. They just couldn't get up for the game. They played them in the playoffs, and it was Carolina at the Rams. We'd be all over the Rams. Detroit, no defense. Pretty decent offense when they want to play against weak defenses. Against KC, against Green Bay, they just don't show up. They kind of show up, but not that. Dallas with the weak defense, so they made them pay for it. The Rams, best team I think in the whole league. I would say the Rams. Obviously, KC's not all that. Neither is Buffalo. New England's not better than the Rams. Denver probably pretty close, but Denver has too many of these close games. So not really sure Denver's the top. They're up there. So Detroit, good offense, no defense. The Rams are a complete package. Good quarterback, great receivers, great line, great defense. So the Rams are number one. Green Bay's up there. Josh Jacobs is able to run. Defense, Micah Parsons, what can you say? The receivers are okay. Jordan Love is okay. He's not great. He's all right. Had a good game there. So we'll see. Denver, we'll see. We'll see if they're the best team. How they handle Green Bay. My guess is this will be a tease the dog game against Green Bay. I don't want to know the line yet. I'm going to fill in my own lines. But I would say Denver -3 and then take Green Bay at 9, I think. Minnesota and Dallas. Minnesota's terrible. No quarterback. Great defense. Justin Jefferson. You know, how they drafted McCarthy thinking he's the answer. And then letting Darnell go. Why would you let Darnell go? A bird in the hand's better than two in the bush, which means you've got Darnell. He played great last year. Keep him, and then let's see what J.J. McCarthy is. Don't get rid of him, and then maybe J.J. So it's like you're dating this one girl, and you get along good, but then there's this other girl who's really hot. You know, I'm going to date her, but then she's a pain in the ass. And so wait a minute, I'm going to go back to the first girl. And that's kind of what Minnesota did. They saw the other girl, but they didn't know what she was. And then therefore they got burnt by her. So many Dallas, many decent defense. Dallas, Pickens, I don't know. I don't know where he went last week. Well, their defense is pitiful, but Minnesota doesn't have an offense. So this is where it's hard. What do you do with Minnesota? Pretty good defense, but no offense. And they never have a quarterback. Fran Tarkenton sucked. But Tommy Kramer was good. I mean, and then, who do they've never had a really stud quarterback like a Favre, like a Rodgers, anybody like that. So Dallas at home has to win. It's getting do or die time. Miami's playing better. They killed the Jets's yesterday. We'll see. I'll have to watch that game. And then Pitt, who knows what team shows up. They beat Baltimore. Now they're home to Miami. They could lose the game and win it. They need it. They won the game they needed against Baltimore. Everybody was saying, oh, Baltimore's going to win the division. It's like, they'd be lucky to go 500. So let's keep an eye on that. So I will update my stats tomorrow because I got to wait for Philly San Diego. Otherwise, everything went pretty well, except for Tampa. But the Tampa play was a good play. I mean, New Orleans stinks. Shaw stinks. Play against as a road dog, 10-1. It was a normal play. It lost. Cincinnati, Buffalo over. Seattle over Atlanta. That's what I like. Seattle kills them. Denver over Oakland. All they got to do is win by 1. That was easy. LA over Arizona with half the team out was easy. Green Bay, Chicago, tease the dog, worked. Houston, KC, tease the dog and go under, and it works. So that's how you like the games where you've got strong against weak, but I'm only laying 7. I wasn't laying 12, as I probably should have been. The Rams, Arizona did go to 9.5, but we already bet them at 8. That's why I don't want to wait for the closing line. I knew I was going to bet them on Tuesday, like today. I know. I look at the thing. I know I'm going to bet Philly over Oakland, and Cincinnati, Baltimore. I'm going to go over with the game and probably take Green Bay as a dog to Denver. I mean, I already know what I'm going to do, and I didn't see any injuries, so we'll see. But even if there is an injury, it really doesn't matter unless Green Bay loses Love. I don't care. So that's where we're at. So let's turn our attention to our gold. Focus, how are you today? Quarterback Sanders looked good. Coach seems intent on sabotage, needs to be fired. Well, maybe. Again, he played Tennessee. Let's see him play against Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Denver and some of those. So let's see. Cleveland plays Chicago. Let's see how he looks in that game. You can't judge it by one game against a shit team like Tennessee. Tennessee being a where is it? Cleveland. Tennessee's a Z team with the 28 defense. All right, so Prime looked okay, but Dylan Gabriel beat him out. Flacco had beaten him out. So we'll see. But you can't judge a team when you play a Z team and he looks good. Again, it's like New England Buffalo next week. Let me know. I'll tell you about New England after the game if they beat Buffalo or not. Beating these weak teams does not make you a good team. Beating the strong teams are. As Ric Flair always says, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And he didn't play Ric Flair yesterday. He played the honky-tonk man, let's say. So we'll see. I don't care. I look at it who I can make money off of. If Prime's this good and he wins all these games, fine. And we'll bet on him and win. I don't think he is, but we'll see. All right. Let's take a look at our gold, 41.89. It was about 42.15. I don't know why it's being kept down except for these option players. We got back to 41.98. So 41.89, it's a bullshit paper number. Not real. Silver, 50, call it 58. Why is that down? All we see are these videos saying there's no silver left. Everybody's taking delivery. There's nobody shorting it. So they're keeping it down because I think if it goes to 60, 8 banks go out, and it's going to go to 60 soon. But you got to understand comex. These banks want to keep the prices suppressed. So these banks can get out of trouble because it's run by the bank. It's not a free market. It's a bank-run comex, and the BRICS countries want to buy the gold and silver. Everybody wants to buy the physical, but comex is paper. And that's the key that you must understand. So the paper prices are, the comex are, $57.95 silver, because the shorts are trying to get out of their positions because these idiots short the stuff. I don't know why. You have all this demand. It's very limited. I don't want to hear about the industrial use of silver. It's money, and it's the dollar going out. And as gold goes up, you can't really afford gold, so you buy silver. And you're not keeping the price down for that. But that's the 90% of the reason of silver is because it is money, not because they can use it in solar panels. Who gives a fuck? I mean, that's not going to hurt the price. Or Tomahawk missiles, maybe. Are you even building any? Or is there any orders for it? Who can afford to buy Tomahawk missiles? So this whole military thing just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Electric vehicles, they're done. So I don't know that all this environmental crap needs silver, and that's why they're keeping the price down. It's not going to happen. Profit. It's funny. My only losers were on Tampa Bay, Washington, and Cleveland as well. Cleveland head coach definitely screwed up yesterday and should be fired. Another one firing the Cleveland coach. The Cleveland coach isn't bad. My question is how the hell did Tennessee score 31 points on Myles Garrett? So I assume Ward ran a lot. See, this is where we're kind of getting screwed, is these quarterbacks that can't throw, so we bet against them, and then they run all over the place like Tyler Shaw did for New Orleans. One of them was a sack. He just ran away, and there was nobody there. The other one was also a run. So we had 2 running touchdowns. But you can't bet on that. You bet on he's not a good passer and he's that. So you're betting, really, that's what you're betting on, right? And when he runs for 2 touchdowns, that's probably because Tampa was playing man on man. And then once it broke down, he was able to run, and everybody's watching the receiver, not him. That's why you see a lot of zones in the NFL, because he's running quarterbacks and they don't want to keep their eye off of him. And so they think they either spy or, then they let up all these open passes. So I don't know why people run zones against the Lions. Jared Goff is not going to run on them. But that's the problem. So they play a zone for the Lamars to keep them in, Josh Allen to keep them from running. My advice would be to blitz. I would send 5 guys every play and just be in all the lanes and not let the guy run. It's as simple as that. That's what I would do. Not the other way. So again, I'm a little bit like, the Lions have no offensive line, but they did score on Dallas. They didn't score in Philly. They didn't score in Kansas City. So it's a little bit too convoluted to just say, hey, the Lions' offensive line stinks. They're not going to have an offense, when against the weak teams, they still have the offense. Against the better teams, they don't. Anyway, so in the paper world of gold and silver, they're able to do options to lower the price, to suppress it, because they're fucked, because they've bought options that they want the price to go down, and that's what they're fighting. So they keep, we'll put in $10 billion of shorts. Don't know where they get the money. They just print it, and to keep the price down, because they're going to lose $100 billion or $1 trillion when the price goes up, which it's going to do. The key for us is BRICS. All they're doing, see, when you lower gold to 41.87, all that does is the BRICS countries, Russia, China specifically, go and buy it. If you want to keep the price down, I'm going to buy it. And that's why their plot isn't working, the bullion banks. And that's why they're all going to go broke. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America, all these bullion banks, they're going to go broke because it's worldwide. And as you keep trying to push the price down, you're losing a lot of money on your options, but they're going to buy it. And they're waiting. They're buying it. Oh, you're down to 41.87. Fine, we'll buy it. So it's this game being played where they're trying to get the price down to get out of their positions. And BRICS is saying, thank you, and we'll buy it cheap. And that's exactly what's happening. So that's why you see this ebb and flow until, like, apparently at 60, I don't know, that they'll go, that'll bust the banks, because their options will have to be bought, and they're in it at 50 and hoping it goes down. Why they're shorting it doesn't make sense. Why they're doing price suppressing doesn't make any sense. You're fighting a losing battle, because this is the world. This isn't just in the US. You got China and Russia and India all salivating, buying gold and silver at these low prices. Like I say, you go to the gold store and you see $58 right now. And you see, so it cost me 60 for an ounce. It used to cost me 25. That's why I loaded up at 25, because I knew when I was in Alabama that this was happening, right? I knew this was happening then. Like I said, when Biden did a $7 trillion expense, you don't have $7 trillion, so you got to print it. And all of a sudden the debt balloons, and okay, that means the dollar's gone, and that means I got to get out of dollars. Do I go into yen? Do I go into won? Do I go into the euro or the British pound? Nope, can't go into any of those. Gold and silver's the only place to go. So I started buying back then, knowing what was ahead. So it's just like football. I have the unique ability. I was watching David Blaine, and he was talking about his magic and what he does. And he says, it's just, like, what I have is like a gift. I can look at the games and pick 70%. Nobody else can do that. And I can look at the economics that I learned, and I understand it. and I know what's going to happen. I know, $1,000 silver, $25,000 gold is a certainty. It's not me. It's going to happen because I understand the dollar's worthless. So I'm able to connect the dots, and I have that unique ability being an INFJ and everything. So I know this is gone. You go to the grocery store, you see it. I mean, I don't have to tell you. So everything's more expensive. Once in a while, they put sales on because people aren't buying it. That's why we do this. We do this because this is protection, and this is about to go up. So we move from something worthless to something with value that hasn't even started to go up yet. But we know that's what's happened. We understand the story, right? We know the dollars, and the only thing that can save the dollar is gold and silver. So if they got a bunch of gold in and they back the dollar by gold, is the only way to save it. Now, the financial system isn't going anywhere. It's just the medium of exchange that's causing this problem. So that's what's happening. They need a new medium of exchange. So we need a new dollar. The system's fine. Now, we see all these videos. This is an adorable one on the gingerbread man. I like these ones. So let's see. Egon we can watch, but it's the same thing. It's gold as the protection, silver. So sometimes I like to go off a little bit because they'll talk about comex going broke, right? People can ask for delivery. So there's an option where you ask for money. So you can sell or buy the option, right? And the Ponzi scheme worked because people never asked for delivery. They just said, I made $100, I'll take the money. You're buying like 5,000 contracts in a contract, but you're not dealing with physical. It's strictly a paper market. And so what's happening now is people are asking for physical because they realize the dollar's worthless. So I don't want paper, I want physical. But there isn't any physical in the comex. Just like in an ETF, there's no physical in the ETF. They have 1 ounce for 1,000 people. So if you're one of the 1,000 people thinking you have gold, you're fucked. You're not going to have it. So what's happening is everybody's asking for delivery. They don't have the gold and silver, and therefore comex is gone. Basically, they have a little bit of gold or silver left, but it's on the last day. It's 62-0, and there's 5 minutes left in the game. That's where we're at. So we know the team with 62 is going to win, but we know we got 5 minutes left in the game, and that's what comex is. They don't have the physical. It's gone. They get a little bit in from London or something. China won't sell them any silver. Neither will Russia, as you fucked Russia over. And so they don't have the physical to pay up, and that will end comex. And we understand that. And then there'll be no physical available, but people need gold and silver. So it's like you need let's say dark chocolate, and there isn't any. Well, who has it? And then I'll buy it for more because I need the dark chocolate, or whatever you want, meat, chicken, whatever. I need food, so I'll pay more because I need food. There's no option, right? So you go to the grocery store, you got to buy milk and eggs, and you got to buy whatever. You're going to buy chicken, you're going to buy ribs or steak. You're going to buy your food that you need to eat. And that's basically what you have here is you need gold and silver because the dollar's worthless. Now, as we hear from our guys here, they're all sitting there. Basically, there's nothing there, right? And because there's nothing, they don't have physical. Well, I need to get physical because I need to get out of the dollar. So like I need food, I need to get out of this, and I need to go into gold and silver. That's my out. That's what I need. But there isn't any physical. So if I'm in comex buying it, this really, I don't want the dollar. So I'm going into comex to buy the option because I want the metal and I want to break it. So if I'm China and Russia, I want to get rid of comex, right? I've got China's got 80,000 tons, Russia with 25,000 tons. They don't need any more gold. Now they want the price to go up. Russia's got a war. China just wants to make more money. So with that said, they just want to bankrupt comex. Because once it's gone, then you got to go to China and Russia for physical. And they're going to charge you an arm and a leg if they even sell it. The U.S. wants silver for the military, for the Tomahawk missiles. I don't know, AI, and I don't know how much is needed for AI or the IT stuff. That's bullshit. But that's what's going on. So as they keep trying to lower the price, China and Russia are just waiting to buy it. And they want to end it, and then they want to price it. And with China, gold will not be anywhere near 4,200. Yeah, you add a zero to that, it'll be 42,000 because they've got 80,000 tons. They want a high price. And then if the U.S. realizes they need gold, which we still don't because we got the dumbest idiots in the world running our government, then they'll need it, and it'll be, you're going to pay 40,000 an ounce for it with your money? Man, we don't want your money. So it'll bankrupt the U.S., which is the overall goal of China and Russia, is to win financially, not with nuclear weapons. They want customers. They want business. China wants to sell to people, and Russia wants to sell their business people. But I need customers. And the U.S. is no longer a customer because their money is not acceptable. So that's the game being played, and it works until they run out, and they've run out of gold and silver. There's nothing in the vaults. I've shown you those. Let's watch an Egon. He's got one here. Money can be printed, but not gold. And I like the one yesterday where the guy's talking Titanic. I almost fell off my chair going, so I guess more people are watching me than I believe. All right, let's watch Alligator. London can't deliver comex near defeat. So let's get an idea of that.
I recently purchased the most popular glucose meter online and decided to test it with you.
Basically what's happening in silver is that all liquidity is gone. And this is in large part because the supply of silver has been less than the demand for silver for at least the last 4 years. The difference has been made up basically by drawing down on silver stocks of various sorts. The Silver Institute puts it in its table, if you like, as investment silver. So that gets drawn down, and then they can say that, at the bottom, if you take everything into account, we've got exactly the same figure for supply as we do for demand. But the reality is that it's in deficit and has been in deficit for the last 5 or 6 years. A lot of the supply, if you like, the excess supply, hasn't been investment so much, but it's been dishoarding by China. They've been prepared to try and put a lid on the silver price by ensuring that manufacturers of things that use silver, like photovoltaic cells and things, do have access, even though China is the largest producer of photovoltaic cells itself. China has always had a very firm control over silver. Well, now what's happened is that China, first of all, has withdrawn from supplying the West. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that from January the 1st, the export of silver is banned from China. So you can see that this is creating a huge, great problem in the markets. Now, history of the derivative system, it was originally brought in and sanctioned by the US Treasury as a means of suppressing prices of commodities, particularly gold and silver, but particularly gold, by diverting demand away from bullion into paper bullion, if you like, bits of paper. And this sort of fitted in quite well with the regulatory situation which evolved in the early 1980s, whereby investments, regulated investments, were defined as stocks, shares, bonds, so on and so forth. But unregulated investments included gold, silver, and copper and other commodities. Because they were not regulated, it basically means that the compliance officers will limit what an investment manager can do in terms of investing in physical gold, physical silver, and so on and so forth. So what this meant was that there was a, if you like, a control on the price, particularly of gold and also silver and copper and oil and things like that, by the expansion of these derivatives, soaking up demand for them without people actually bothering to get the underlying metal. And so consequently, the prices of underlying metal didn't rise. What we're seeing in the silver market now, however, is the complete loss of liquidity. There is massive dealing going on in silver derivatives. But of course, rather like a tire hitting the road, there comes a point, if you like, where people actually want the physical. And that is beginning to happen. Consequently, in London, there's nothing to deliver, even though they've been dealing in huge quantities. And the squeeze on comex has been evidenced, if you like, by the fact that silver's shooting into new high ground, while at the same time open interest is declining. What the decline in open interest tells us is that the speculators are not buying it. They're not going for it at all. The price is rising not because of speculation or investors, if you like, buying it. It is rising because the system itself is close to default. There's also a shortage in Shanghai.
Well, first of all, it is rising because of demand, which he doesn't seem to understand it. He's not an economist, so it's clear if there's 100 people wanting 50 and there's 50 supply, the price goes up because 100 people want it. They're going to bid it up. That's obvious. That's economics. He doesn't seem to get it. Yes, there are a huge demand for gold and silver. It's, because of very limited supply. So he doesn't seem to be able to understand that concept.
And I'm looking at the combined stocks of the Shanghai Gold Exchange and also the Shanghai Futures Exchange. That's fallen to around about 570 tons, which is seen as close to crisis level. 600 being, you don't want to see the stocks less than 600. We're about 570. There's a little bit creeping back in. I saw overnight there's about 14 tons came in or was recorded as having come into the underlying bullion stocks. But it's still a very, very difficult situation. Now, the point about this is that the use of of derivatives to soak up demand for commodities, that story has now come to an end. And it's beginning to go into reverse. Now, just imagine you have got a large number of bullion banks, hedge funds, and all the rest of it, who have positions one way or the other in derivatives. And these are now questioned as to their value. As that unwinds, then the demand is going to go into the physical. So you can see that as that contract on comex and also forwards in London begin to collapse, and it looks like that we're in the early days of that, then this in itself, purely in terms of substitution, is going to push up the silver price very, very substantially from here. So this is the importance of what we're seeing in silver. Now, it is true in silver is not far behind being true in gold. Because again, if you look at open interest on COMEX, that's collapsed, while gold has been trading close to the highest levels ever. This is an extraordinary situation. They're both becoming what have been described as giffen goods. In other words, the normal laws of supply, demand, and price have been completely suspended. Instead, what happens is that...
No, they haven't been suspended. This is what is called the Ponzi scheme of COMEX. This is suppression, is keeping out with the supply and demand of free market economics. That's the problem with COMEX. So we don't really know what the price of gold and silver really are. As I said, the real price of gold's up here and COMEX is here, the same with silver, because these suppressions and these options are keeping the price down. That's where I get, just times it by 10, and that's conservative. So if silver's $60, the real price is 600, is probably maybe 2,000, 3,000. And that's why, like, I laugh when people, oh, silver will hit 80 in the paper world, but we're not in the paper world. We're in the physical world. And same thing with gold. 4,200 is probably 42,000 because they're suppressing it, and the demand is way up here. It doesn't matter what COMEX, this is the disconnect that he just is talking about. All right.
As the price rises, it creates buyers and reduces supply, which pushes the price up even further. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. And this is actually undermining. It started with silver. I think it's going to follow through into gold. I mean, all the indications are there that it will.
I recently purchased the most popular glucose meter online and decided to test it with you.
It will. It's beginning to undermine the most important derivative contracts in the whole of the derivative system. Now, you may think that this is an exaggeration, but bear in mind that the banks and all the rest of it who have these positions are counterparty risk the whole way across the entire derivative landscape. So what we're seeing is the potential failure, and certainly if we don't get immediate failure, concerns that there will be a failure of derivative counterparties in the whole of that space. Now we're talking about trillions of notional value affected by this. So this is another aspect, if you like, of things that just seem to be going wrong at exactly the wrong moment, if you like. So that's the importance, really, of what silver is telling us, I think. I don't think it's a load of hogwash. I mean, the story, as you rightly say, was that I think something like 50 million ounces was sucked into London when we had the failure on October the 10th. Basically, that contract was effectively suspended. We're not talking about a regulated market, but there were no dealings. It just sort of seized up for about an hour and a half on October the 10th. And consequently, there was an arbitrage coming out of China. But now that China is not only forbidding the export of gold, it is now forbidding the export of silver, or at least will be doing so from January the 1st. So this is, and I think, I don't think it's necessarily, China just saying, we're stopping to supply silver and all the rest of it. This is actually fitting in with the rare earths thing and critical minerals. And, so I think it's part of that wider policy. The trouble is that also silver has become, or it is becoming, I don't know quite where we are, it's been recommended to the government that silver should be a critical mineral for the United States as well. So it's difficult to see that the United States, I would assume they've got some stocks. They won't tell us, of course. If they've got some stocks, I think that they'll probably tend to hold on to them. And this is the point about a giffen good. Holders, rather than benefiting from a rising price, sort of take the view, oh my God, there's a shortage of this stuff. We better hold on to ours. We'll never get that. So this is the problem, I think, that the market faces now.
See, this is what he doesn't got. We're holding it because it's going to go up in value because there's a huge demand and there's a low supply. So it makes sense if it's 4,200 for gold and it's going to go to 10. Why would we sell it? And if we do sell it, we got to get back into this, which we don't want to get back on the Titanic. We want to stay off the Titanic in the lifeboat. So therefore, it's buy as much as you can, but you would not sell it. So that goes over his head. All right, let's listen to a little Egon.
Very warm welcome to another edition of Gold Sessions. My name is Johnny Haycock, partner at Von Greyers. It is an honor today to be having a chat with Egon Von Greyers, founder of our business. Egon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Johnny. It's good to talk to you.
It's hard to know where to start because it seems that we're talking at the most timely moment in politics, in economics, and in markets. But the silver move in the last week specifically is something that I do want to touch on first before we get on to other areas. It surged through key resistance levels, a significant break above 54, 55. I'd love to get your take on what we're seeing in the silver market specifically at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny. Well, you know, we having had a long life from a personal point of view and professional point of view, you know, you see a lot of things during that time, and every time something more extraordinary happens, you think, you know, this is very special. But if you look back in history, everything that we see now has happened before, and therefore I'm not surprised. But of course, I do think it's different now. I know that's you should avoid. But you know, we started this business of wealth preservation in the form of physical gold and silver, 25 years ago. But I was thinking about it for at least for the last 35 years, because it was clear to me that as the risk was mounting, as debts were mounting, as derivatives were mounting, that we were getting to the end of a monetary era. And a monetary era always ends in a debt explosion, and then, you know, a collapse of the currency, a collapse of the financial system, social unrest, etc. So that was what I was talking about already 35 years ago. I came to the conclusion, of course, that gold and silver, to some extent, were the best forms of assets to hold for wealth preservation purposes. You know, they're nature's money and the only money that has survived in it.
So basically, if you have money that's not backed by gold or silver, it's worthless. So in 1971, we should have been buying gold. I don't know that we could have. I think it wasn't allowed till 73 or 74 at 35 an ounce. But as soon as you know money's not backed by anything, it's going out. It took 50 years to go out, but along the way, you kept seeing gold and silver rise. Well, gold rise, silver you just recently seeing rise. And with all these other uses for silver, the demand is way outpacing supply, so the price has to go up. So that's just logical, and comex won't do anything. But that's what he still kind of doesn't get. He sees it, but he really doesn't answer the why. It's because the dollar has to be backed by something. If it's not backed by gold or silver, it's just monopoly money and it's not worth anything. So if you know that going in, you immediately start buying gold and silver because the dollar will keep losing value and gold and silver will keep going up. But it's more rapid now because people realize the dollar is going out and you have to get into gold and silver. So once you realize that that's the answer, you see more and more people like China and Russia and India and BRICS going into gold because they realize the dollar's gone. As Putin said, it's like a Snickers wrapper. It's not worth anything. So anyway.
So, and of course, you talked about silver. You know, we always, of course, the king of the metals is gold. But right now, silver is particularly interesting. And also, it's interesting to know that whenever the metals make a big move, And that's what's happening now. The gold-silver ratio starts coming down, and the gold-silver ratio is very high now. It's been over 120, it's been 80 for a while, and now it's down in the 70s. And we will see that going to maybe 30 or even.
Okay, what this ratio is because of comex. You had to deliver gold. You didn't have to deliver silver, so they didn't, and the price was still being manipulated where gold started running. Silver hasn't started running yet, but silver's starting to run. As we see it in the 40s, and now it's in the 50s and over 50, and it'll be 100 soon. And then you'll see silver running. This whole ratio is meaningless. Who the hell knows? It's all supply and demand. There'll be more demand for silver. It might even be even, because what happens is, as gold gets too expensive, most people can't afford it. The real rich can, if they can find bars. Oh, I want to buy, I got $1 million. Well, I don't have $1 million of gold to sell you. But if me and you want to buy 5 ounces here and 10 ounces there, we can find it. So as gold goes to 5,000 and it hits 10,000, less people have 10,000 to buy an ounce, but they'll buy $10,000 worth of silver, which will raise the price. That's what the ratio is, just bullshit. It's just what the market will for both items. And because silver is cheaper, but seen as an equal to gold as far as it's out of the dollar. So the game is get out of the dollar. Do you care if you're into gold or silver? You got to get out of this as the game. So you get into gold, you get into silver. Silver will still take care of you. Not as expensive as gold because there's less gold than silver, but it's the gold standard, and it is indestructible. Keep that in mind. Silver is destructible. So while this could be Julius Caesar's, the silver probably isn't, because that's probably been gone. And then you got to find new silver, and there's more silver. That's why it's not as expensive as gold. But you can't do anything to gold. You can't freeze it. You can't burn it, melt it. It doesn't matter. You can't get rid of gold. It's the perfect thing. So that's one of the reasons. So this whole ratio is meaningless. You're buying silver now because it's $58 an ounce and gold's $4,200. It's a little too expensive, but I can buy 20 ounces of silver. It's hard to buy 20 ounces of gold. That's almost $100,000. So I can buy 20 ounces of silver, which is roughly $1,200. So that's the difference. All right.
15, the long-term average of the gold-silver ratio. So the gold-silver ratio means simply gold price divided by the silver price. So now, you remember, I've been around for a long time. So 1980 was the first peak we saw in gold at $850, and then silver was $50. And then silver came down to under $10. I think came down to $5 even. And gold corrected also, but not to the same extent. And then again, back in 2011, gold was $1,920 and silver was $50 again. So gold had more than doubled, and silver was the same top as 30 years earlier. And again, we had a big correction, always bigger in silver. And now we're again back to 50 for silver, but at over 4,200 for gold. So this is unique. And this is for the first time, silver is actually coming above the $50 level. And I think this is just the beginning. We are now going to see an acceleration of silver through 50, 60, 70, 80, etc. And I think, if you compare on an adjusted level, if silver goes up as much as gold has since 1980, then silver should today be about $250. And I think that's just a start. We are going to see the most massive explosion in the silver price. I mean, I call this $50 line resistance line, and it isn't resistance anymore because we've gone through it properly. But the market is still holding it at around $55, $57. I think we're going to see it all of a sudden just explode. And that's not sensational. That's just a reflection of the demand for silver. The silver industrial demand has gone from 10% of silver use to 50%. 50% of all silver is now used for industrial production. And then the investment demand, there is always a shortage every year. So we're seeing massive shortages in the physical market. And for commercial purposes, silver is, of course, used for anything from solar cells to car batteries to electric and electronic products. And that, as I said, there's major demand. And Johnny, nobody realizes, because all of the trading in silver is basically paper. And no one has ever successfully used paper for a car battery, an electric car battery, or a solar panel. So we're not going to, there will not be enough silver at these prices. So there will be this, it will jump all of a sudden. And so I see silver as a sign now, or not just of silver demand, but actually as a sign of the beginning of the accelerated fall of this monetary era, which obviously means also currencies are going to collapse, inflation is going to rise, and markets will also come down dramatically in stock market. So,
and I think this is sorry to interrupt, but I think this is what is different about today versus 1980, and of course the Hunt brothers cornering the market back then is that the industrial usage for the metal today is obviously far, far, far greater today because of the EV transition, defense, electronics, solar, etc., in a way that it wasn't back in 1980. And therefore, you're consistently going to get that incremental demand at a time where there just isn't supply. And as someone rather famous said, it's rather like threading a camel through the eye of the needle, trying to satisfy the demand when there just isn't the supply in the market. And I wonder whether this dislocation between the paper market and the physical market is exactly what we saw last week.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the beginning, and there has been a shortage of about 200 million ounces every year for the last 5 years of silver. They make that up by manipulating the futures market and borrowing silver, etc. That's not going to be possible in the future. People will, as I have said for many years, ask for delivery, and when they ask for delivery, there will not be any silver there. No silver at the price. Why are we going to see the most massive explosion, as I said? And that's just the beginning of, as I said, the accelerated fall of this monetary era. Of course, gold will follow, not as fast as silver, because there's not the same type of shortages in the gold market as there is in the silver market. But the metals will now start the final phase in this era of climbing to levels that will be multiples of current levels.
I just wonder whether the dislocation that we saw last week over thin trading with Thanksgiving, of course, they CME closed for many, many hours, and they talked about a cooling system, and there are lots of conspiracy theories out there suggesting why. But it is interesting to me, Egon, and I know you and I touched on this before the call, that we did see the Fed Reserve pump $13.5 billion into the US banking system through overnight repos last week. And it's kind of interesting that it coincided exactly with this stress in that we saw in the silver market. I don't know, I've got no insight, but it's an interesting data point.
Yes, you always get these warnings, whether it is through the precious metals markets or whether it's through, of course, the Fed starting to act. Remember, COVID started early 2020, but already, and we reported on that, our colleague Matthew Piepenberg and myself, that the Fed was in there supporting the banking system already in August, September 2019. And that was the first sign of that there are problems in the banking system, and the same now. It's very clear. This as part of this final fall of the monetary system, the financial system will not look the same as it does now. There will be major problems and major defaults within the financial system, and as I've always worried about the derivatives, as you know, and I think derivatives, if you include shadow banking system and a lot of things that are not being recorded, we are in the quadrillions, maybe a couple of quadrillion derivatives around the world.
Well, it is. I mean, it is interesting. I do think it's a really important data point. This for our viewers that understandably don't understand the plumbing of the financial system in the way that you do, Egon. But I do note that this liquidity injection is the second largest liquidity injection since COVID. And as you say, it does typically tend to herald another event or is a canary in the coal mine. So I think it's a very, very important data point, and it actually surpasses the peak of the dot-com bubble in terms of liquidity injection. So I think it's a very, very important point. I just want to, just in terms of wealth preservation, look, you've always said, look, gold is the king of money. Silver's sort of the unruly younger brother that can reward handsomely at various points in the cycle. And you've always argued for our clients that they should have, as far as their precious metals allocation is concerned, 80% in gold and 20% in silver. And then when the gold-silver ratio was over 100, I think it was in February of this year, you advised, look, you should shift it more to 70-30. Is that still the right ratio today?
I think it is today. Even when you say we haven't always said 20% silver, because from the first certainly 10, 15 years, we advised people who wanted to sleep at night and not worry about volatility to hold only gold. And that was correct. You remember, as I said before, silver in 1980 went to $50 and then down to $5. Yeah.
Okay, but what he's missing is that's comex, paper silver. Once you get rid of comex and we're on the real physical supply demand, free market economics, you're not going to see the volatility. Would I go 70-30 gold, silver? I'm in the camp to buy as much gold as you can, and as it's getting more expensive to buy silver, but I would keep buying gold. You'll buy a house with gold, a car with gold. You'll have it. You do need silver for the smaller purchases, to go to the grocery store and stuff like that. But if I had 100,000, it'd be probably 90,000 in the gold and 10,000 in the silver. Now, one thing he missed is, like he said, the price of gold. The price of gold, again, it's still COMEX controlling it, but the price of gold will go higher than the price of silver, and it'll keep going because it's much more valuable. I don't remember what he said in reference to gold, but I think he said from before. But again, he misses the point of the COMEX price fixing. So you can't look at 1970 to now and try to get a real value of gold and silver. It's still a manipulation, right? It's still paper. It's still options. It's still bullshit. So what the real price is, as I said, is conservatively 10 times more. I'm not one to guess the price, but I know gold will go to 50,000 an ounce. How it gets there, I don't know, but it will, because you get rid of the manipulation, and then you have to get out of the dollar. So this is the whole key to what we're talking. This is worthless. Yes, go to the grocery store. Everything's more expensive. This is worthless. So therefore, I mean, if you're making 75,000 at your job, you're getting fucked, because this ain't going to buy anything. And you don't really want to get paid in this, but we have to. So as soon as you get your paycheck, you run and buy gold and silver. You pay your expenses, and then, your rent, your food, your utilities. Then you run and buy and put it in gold and silver. But as long as it's in COMEX, it's not the real price. And that's critical. But it's the game of getting out of the dollar. And I would put as much into gold as you can, because you know what? Very, very soon, you're not going to find it. I know I've seen some where the mints are stopped producing. The Perth Mint, from what I read, the U.S. Mint is not going to print. I mean, right now we're in December, but they're stopping to make the Eagles and things like that. So you got to buy now while it's available at a reasonable price. And these are reasonable prices from where we're going to. And buy it as quick as you can. And then when it's not available, then you're going to sit back and watch it go to the moon. So the more gold you have will go to the moon quicker than the silver. But, you want both. You probably want to have 1,000 ounces of silver and get to 100 ounces of gold. You'll be happy. And if you're real rich, then you can maybe get to try to get a ton of gold, 32,000 ounces. So we'll see. When he was talking 2 million ounces, that's only about 50 tons, which is nothing. China's got 80,000 tons. That's why I say 50 tons is nothing, or 30 tons, whatever. All right.
Many investors can live with that. And of course, people never sell at the top, they sell at the bottom. But this is why, as I said, we told investors not to hold silver, certainly until let's say 2013, 14, 15, or any major amounts of silver. We thought, I think our clients held from 2013, 14, maybe 15% roughly. And now, as you said, I think that comfortably, I see now silver not being just another precious metal, but it's also probably the most exciting investment combined with wealth preservation that is available today.
So he made the mistake. He said, I told my guys not to get into silver. That was a huge mistake. When I was working at the plant about 5 years ago, I was teaching a guy gold and silver, and I took him to the gold store, and he pulls out a check for $100,000, and he bought 100,000 worth of gold, which I think was 50 ounces. And I told him, well, you need silver too. And he bought $50,000 worth of silver. This is a guy who's in the back room of a plant. So I don't know. He's not like a lawyer or a doctor or anything. So I was shocked he had that kind of money, but I was happy to see that he did buy it. And no, you buy silver too. Silver is money, and the game is to get out of the dollar because it's worthless. That's the game. Gold and silver are, how you mix it up. But yeah, you want to buy primarily gold because that's what's really going to move, because it's the gold standard and everybody has gold. But BRICS is buying a lot. Russia is buying a lot of silver. And, is it for solar panels? It's probably for money. Again, as the gold gets, when gold hits 50,000, you're going to need silver. And that's why I buy this. Now, I try to buy ounces when I can, but I buy this because this is worth 500 now. Well, okay, so when gold really goes, you're going to need some of this because you want to cash in your 1/10 of an ounces. You don't want to be cashing in your ounce, but it's okay to have 1/10 of an ounce and 1/4 of an ounce. So gold's 4,000, so gold goes to 40,000. This will be worth $5,000. And, so I'd rather cash that in, or your silver. So that's why you have the silver, because the less expensive things like the grocery store and that, but they'll probably make change at the grocery store for you. Your ounce of silver will buy so much, but if it hits 1,000 an ounce, then you're going to need, you're going to need change for your milk and butter, right? So this will be interesting, but I think it theoretically should go on your credit card. That would be the best way, and you just somehow have gold and silver at the bank, and here's an ounce, and that gets you $1,000 worth. You go to the grocery store, and then it's up to Kroger's to change their prices to silver. So a milk and eggs are now 1/10 of an ounce of silver, which will cost you $2, and your ounce is worth 1,000. And that's how. So you only pay. You won't need change because there's not enough gold and silver to give change at the grocery store. Yet we need it for the food. So we used to have the gold standard. The Romans, obviously there was no dollars. They had the the gold and silver coins. They had the Appian way, so it works. So you just have different sizes and different weights, but the value is the value. It's really worth a ton, and it's just going up. All right.
People who want to both protect risk and see a major upside. So I would be happy to be overweight in silver now versus gold. I mean, not in totality, but high percentage that we have recommended before. So certainly 30% or even 35 right now, I would recommend, because we're going to see the ride of a lifetime. And remember, it's not Bitcoin here. It's not speculative. It's not something that can go to zero. It's money. There's always been money for thousands of years, both gold and silver. And it's not, therefore, you're actually having wealth protection at the same time as an opportunity to really make some good returns.
Yeah, wealth, a beautiful combination of wealth preservation and wealth enhancement.
Yeah,
at the same time, and that doesn't come along that often. And I remember when we were in Zurich 3 weeks ago, and we had a chatting to Rick Rule, and he made the point very, very clearly that bull markets, proper bull markets in precious metals, don't come along that often. The last great one, of course, was the 70s, but when they do come along, don't waste it.
Yeah.
Don't waste it.
And we see investors buying when it goes up, and then when it comes down, and you get a really correct. Not in the way we've seen no major correction lately, but even smaller ones. This is when you should buy. Remember that I was watching gold for many years because it went from, as I said before, 1980 went from 850 down to 250 in 99. And we waited for it to consolidate and then see that it came up above $300. And that's when we bought ourselves and recommended it to our investors to buy.
Yeah, but he doesn't get it. It's comex that's controlling the price. So it got to 800 and went down. Was comex selling it. And then people thinking it's a pet rock or whatever selling it, but you've never had a physical price before. This price you have now is not a physical price. $4,258 for silver is not a physical price. It's still a paper price. Never forget that. This is a comex, but we got comex blowing up because it's a Ponzi scheme, and it was based on like Madoff. Madoff worked until everybody asked for their money, which he couldn't provide. This is the same thing. It only works until people ask for physical. And guess what? They got to get out of this in every country, and they want to get into physical. And that's why comex is blowing up. And we're going to get a physical price, which has got to be 10 times higher than this. So, when these idiots say, well, silver will go to $80, they're fucking clueless. They don't know what they're talking about. Silver conservatively will go to 1,000 and much more once it becomes free market, and it's the market controlling the price instead of this comex paper shit. All these people with the derivatives will go broke, as will the banks, and we'll be sitting there doing very well for ourselves because we've got the right money, and we're out of the bullshit money. We're ignoring all the scams that the Madoffs in Wall Street and in comex. It's all Ponzi schemes. Oh, buy this, buy an ETF. Well, you don't really own the gold. Why would I buy it then? Why would I buy, an ETF that I think I have 10 ounces of gold and I don't have any, and I'll never get it. They'll never give you an ounce. So that's another Ponzi scheme, the ETFs. Just buy physical. Go to the store, you buy this, you put it away, you get a safe, put it in a safe slot, and that's it. That's all you're trying to do. It's simple. Don't overthink. I got guys, I'll buy stocks. No, you don't want to buy stocks. And the other thing is you never sell it at this point. This is not to be sold, because if we understand the game, I'm in this and I want to get into this. Well, if I sell, I'm going to sell and be back into this. So I don't ever want to sell. This is not a stock. This is not consolidation. This is not profit taking. This is buy and stack, buy and hold, just like baseball cards. You want to keep collecting gold and silver, because if you sell, you're back into this. We know this is worthless. So there should never be profit taking unless it's like some expense that you have that you absolutely need money and you don't. And so I sell an ounce of gold, I get 4,200, and I take that and I pay my expenses or go on a vacation or soon buy a house or buy a yacht with it. Then that's okay. That's what you do with it. You buy assets with it, but you don't want to get back into monopoly money. And you don't want to get back into this. This and this are the same bullshit. They're worthless. Now, they're not going to tell you they're worthless, but you can't print as much as you have. The more you print, the less they're worth. So you got to understand that concept. Once you understand that, you know how much has been printed, and there's no more petrodollar. What happens to all that money? Comes back. You're flooded with money. It's too much, and it has no value. That's why you go to the store and steaks are $20 and tuna's $4.50 for a can. And, you know, everything's very expensive. Ice cream, $5, $6. You go to the Dairy Queen, it's like $7 for a sundae. You're like, fuck you. I can buy the container for $3. And so what's happening in the marketplace is people don't have enough money. So therefore, housing's gone from 500,000 to 300,000. Cars, they can't sell. All these cars on the lots that are just sitting there, and the price keeps going down. Well, okay, my Camry was 20,000, is now, I don't know, 15, 14. It's because there's no buyers. There is no market. You've killed the market because there's too many cars and not enough buyers, because the inflation's killing everybody because they don't know to buy gold and silver. So they're watching their dollars go out. Oh, I got 401k. No. You don't. It's not worth anything. The market will crash, mostly because people will need their money and they're going to sell their asset. And their asset that everybody's in, except for us, is stocks. And Bitcoin will go out because people will pull their money. I saw it yesterday. It was 87,000. What happened to 120? What happened to it's just going to keep going? It's going to go to 1 million, and they're going to reprice it at 1 million. Not in your life. So he who owns the gold survives, basically. A little more
to
vegan.
Put as much as 50% of their assets into gold at $300. That's what we did. So that was a very good entry point for wealth preservation. But even today at $4,000, we have a long way to go. So anyone who wasn't in from the beginning, you haven't missed the boat yet. Actually, that's. I show in one of my illustrations a picture a friend of mine has done, which is it's not too late to jump on the gold wagon.
Okay. Well, look, it sort of brings nicely on to my friend and former colleague Mike Wilson, of course, at Morgan Stanley, who now almost has become infamous for being the first sort of Wall Street strategist to talk about a 60-20-20 portfolio. As opposed to a 60-40 portfolio, equities and bonds, arguing that it's just outdated in a world where you need to protect yourself against currency debasement and inflation. But of course, it's impossible to allocate 20% because there isn't the gold in the world to be able to do that without ridiculously high prices. But even just getting to 1%, it would be pretty much impossible. But it just gives you another idea as to this supply-demand mismatch that we're seeing in precious metals. Let's just move on quickly, because I'm conscious of time. It's going to be a snappy 20, 25-minute interview or chat, Egon. A little bit just on politics and the contrast that we see between, frankly, what looks like a mess in the UK versus the stability that we're seeing in Switzerland at the moment, and the importance of choosing the right...
Just before he moves on, my portfolio is 99% gold and silver. It's probably... in value, it's probably 75% gold, 20% silver, and 5% Mickey Mantle and Tom Brady cards, my baseball cards. Nothing in the stock market, nothing in the bond market, nothing in the real estate trust, nothing in Bitcoin. There's no reason. It's all going to collapse. We know that's what's going to happen. We know the dollar is going out. It's not like a guess. This is actual. And so I keep a little bit of cash to pay, you know, rent and utilities and go to the grocery store. And that's it. And if something comes like Christmas, I'll have some cash for that. And that's it. So that's what's happening in the markets. That's your allocation. Now, you know, you can have 70, 80% gold and maybe 15% silver and the rest in cash. I would not keep cash in the bank. I'd keep it in your safe, keep it in your house. Think about it. Why do I need money in the bank? For protection, right? You got 10 grand. I'm going to put it in the bank where it's safe. Only it's not safe there. When the dollar collapses, you'll never get the money out of the bank. So you've got to be careful. And the fact that the money's worthless. So it's more gold and silver, put it in the safe, keep it safe. And watch the price go up and go, I just made $10,000. Happy times. And that's really what you're looking at. It's as simple as that. Just keep buying. Silver's about to jump to 100. So you want enough in silver and in gold and not in dollar. I mean, the dollar's collapsing. So why would you want money in stocks, bonds, real estate trust, Bitcoin? It's just going to go. It's not worth anything. Bitcoin, it's in dollars. So when the dollar goes to zero, what's the Bitcoin worth? Zero. Because there's no Bitcoin. It's not real and it's not valued in anything. So keep that in mind. So if you have stocks, it's going to crash because people will need money and they'll get out of it. There'll be more unemployment, and people, even if you're working, the money won't be worth anything because it's worthless. So you really want to be in gold and silver, and then you're making money in gold and silver, that you'll be fine. So really that's what you're trying to do is get, instead of losing money, then you go make money. So that's the object here you're trying to do. All right, let's go back to
jurisdiction to store your gold and silver. Can you just comment a bit on that, please?
You know, as part of my writings and thinking in the last 25 years or so, it's been very clear that it's not an end of a monetary era. It doesn't just mean currencies falling, inflation, and all values.
Yes, it does.
Paper assets falling dramatically. But it also means a major upsets in the political system. And, you know, we see in Europe and also in North America, we see very weak political leaders. This is part of the era we're in. You know, we don't need to name any names, but let's say that there's basically no statesman in the Western world today, at least. And therefore, the latest problems Europe has seen, of course, is the UK now having a budget. You know, remember, it's a Labour government, a socialist government, and then basically the Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is the finance minister in the UK, said clearly at the beginning of her budget speech, we are going to take from the wealthy and give it to the needing people. Yes, Robin Hood tactics. I mean, it was nice. It sounded nice and romantic in Robin Hood's days, but today and that's what they did. They raised taxes dramatically. They do everything they can to chase the wealthy people out. You know, 16,000 wealthy people have left the UK in 2025. And remember, those are the wealth creators at all levels, not just the super rich. They're people who start their own businesses, etc. And now with inheritance tax and high taxes, you know, they can't keep their money. So why would they stay in the country? And it's a total disaster. You know, the country only prospers if all classes do well, and if there is actually freedom to act, to open businesses and to run businesses, rather than just to receive subsidies or social security from the government. You know, a person in the UK is now, they said, £18,000 better off by being unemployed and getting subsidies than by working. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening in a socialist world. And, you know, I always take East and West Germany as the example. 45, the war was ending and Germany was, or ended, Germany was split in two. West Germany, with of course with the help of the West and injections, etc., became the strongest country in Europe and one of the strongest in the world, and the strongest economy. Whilst Eastern Germany went into total poverty. And that's just an example that socialism doesn't work. You can't just give to the poor. You have to have wealth creators in the country. So, so that was the UK budget that we just saw last week. Now, if you take Switzerland just had a referendum. You could have Switzerland has direct democracy. Anybody can basically collect 100,000 votes and have a referendum on any issue. That is real democracy. Only country in the world which has this to that extent. It's a very, very sound political system. And basically, this was a young socialist that wanted to tax people with a fortune over 50 million Swiss francs by 50% inheritance tax. So they actually created wealth during the lifetime of 50, 70, 80 years, and half of it was just going to be taken away by the government. But Switzerland is clearly not a socialist country because it was rejected by 80% of the people. And that just shows you, sound political system, and people who just don't think that they should grab the money from the government and from the rich.
Well, it's funny. It's why do you have to earn your money? You don't steal it from people. Like this whole thing you just said, where, well, the rich will just give us 50%. It's not their money. It's the rich got rich by creating wealth by jobs or creating, milk or tennis shoes or whatever, and they made their money. Well, they deserve to keep it because they're smart enough to earn it. So that's the problem with socialism. Oh, well, he's rich. I want his money. Go work. You can't just take his money. Anyway, let's see. Let's take a look at this one. The $1.5 trillion default. Why your bank something.
Yesterday, a Class A office tower in St. Louis sold for $3.6 million. It last sold for $205 million. That is a 98% loss. Let that number sink in. 98%. This isn't a bad deal. This isn't a market correction. This isn't a dip. This is a balance sheet detonation. If you bought a house for $200,000 and tomorrow it was worth $4,000, you wouldn't just be bankrupt. You would be obliterated. Your life savings would be gone. Your credit would be destroyed. You would be financially erased. But this isn't about one building in St. Louis. This isn't about one bad developer making a bad bet. This is about the collateral that underpins the entire U.S. banking system. There's over $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate debt maturing by the end of 2026. And the banks are holding collateral that is effectively worthless. They are pretending they are solvent. They aren't. We are currently in stage 3, the extend and pretend phase. Stage 4 is the bail-in. Welcome to the demolition of the American middle class. To understand the detonation, you have to look closely at the ghost towers. You have to look at the AT&T Tower in St. Louis, 909 Chestnut Street. It is 44 stories tall. It has 1.46 million square feet of space. It was the jewel of the city, the largest office building in the entire state of Missouri. In 2006, investors fought to buy it for $205 million. They lined up to bid on it. They thought it was a safe asset, a bond wrapped in brick. They thought it was impossible to lose money on a skyscraper in a major American city. Today, it sold for roughly $2.50 per square foot. Think about that physics of that price. You cannot buy a latte at Starbucks for $2.50. You cannot buy a gallon of gas for $2.
Well, per square foot.
You can't buy a square foot of a steel and glass skyscraper for that price. The carpeting in the hallway is worth more than the building itself. The copper wiring in the walls is worth more than the equity. Why? Why did this happen? Because the building is empty. And an empty building isn't an asset. It is a liability. It is a cancer that eats cash. You have to heat it. You have to cool it. You have to pay property taxes on it. You have to insure it. You have to pay security guards to watch empty hallways. And if nobody's paying rent, that money comes out of your pocket. It comes out of your pocket every single month until you run out of money. And that is what is happening across America. The media wants you to believe St. Louis is an outlier. They want you to believe this is just a Rust Belt problem. They are lying. St. Louis is just the first domino. Look at San Francisco, the tech capital of the world, the city with the highest real estate prices in history. The vacancy rates there have topped 30%. That is a record. That is higher than the dot-com crash. That is higher than the 2008 financial crisis. That is higher than the Great Depression. In Chicago, the vacancy rate is breaking records. In New York, massive towers on 3rd Avenue are sitting half empty. In Los Angeles, Brookfield, one of the largest asset managers in the world, defaulted on $784 million in loans. They didn't default because they ran out of cash. They defaulted because they did the math. They realized the buildings were worth less than the debt. So they walked away. But the media calls it a soft landing. They tell you that return to office mandates are working. They tell you that AI will fill the office space. They are gaslighting you. Look at the data from the badge swipes. Look at the subway ridership numbers. Office demand is projected to be 20% lower in 2030 than it was in 2019. This is not a temporary dip. This isn't a cycle. This is a structural shift in human behavior. It is the work from...
Okay, so what I want to point out is what really happens is the banks go bankrupt. The banks loan money to this AT&T building in St. Louis or San Francisco, the housing, nobody can sell their houses. Well, who do you think has the mortgage? The banks, Chicago, New York. All of these go back to, nobody has that kind of money, so they borrow it from the bank. But if they don't pay it back to the bank goes bankrupt because the bank's counting on this money to pay the depositors and to make new loans. So the bank's scared to make loans because they're afraid of not getting paid back. The bank works by loaning their money and getting paid back on it. It doesn't work on loaning their money and not getting paid back. That's why there's runs on banks, because people get afraid. Well, wait a minute, you're not going to give me my money. I got $100,000 in your bank in St. Louis with AT&T loan, but since they're not going to pay the loan, you don't have money to pay me. That's where bank runs come from. They get scared they're not going to get their money out. Now, the fact that the money is worthless is another story, but just if I got $100,000 in a bank and they're not going to pay me, and then I tell you, and everybody takes their money out of the bank doesn't have that kind of money. It's all loaned out. So this is where the banks collapse, because the real estate, the car loans, the mortgages, that's what San Francisco is, all the housing. If they don't pay the banks back, the banks are out. The banks made bad loans. That's why banks have to be careful about making loans. So we will see about that, but that's really the key to it. The money, even if they do loan it, isn't worth anything, but at least they can give you monopoly money on your interest every month. But that's really the problem, right? The banks will go broke because they're not getting paid. Because the way a bank works, you give them deposit money, they loan it out, and then they print money and loan out of thin air. So they loan that money out, but the key to a bank is getting paid for their loans. That's how they make money. They get paid $1 million, they loan out. They pay the depositors $500,000, they make $500,000. Except if they don't get paid on their loans, they don't get that $1 million in. They still owe the $500,000 to the depositors wanting their interest. And so if the loans go bad, the banks are gone. And the banks go gone, there's panic. If you got your money in the bank, this is why I tell you to get it out of the bank, because you're not going to be able to. They're not going to have the money to give you. And if they print more money, it's just worthless because it's money that's not worth anything. You can't print $1 million out of thin air and think it has a value. It won't. So that's what you're trying to do, is get your money out of the bank before they won't be able to give it to you. And even the money you get out of the bank isn't worth anything. So you need to Rumpelstiltskin and start getting this with the money that's worthless in the bank going to zero. This won't. This will go up. But you can't keep your money in the bank because the bank will close its doors and say, yeah, we're not going to let you get to the safety deposit boxes. We're closed. You're like, yeah, but I got 100 ounces of gold in there. But you're closed. So you can't trust the banks that you're going to get your safety deposit box. So don't put your gold in the safety deposit box at the bank. Find another safe area. Find it in a safe area, one of these storage lock or, the storage areas where you can store crap in it and have a key, and just be very careful with it. I wouldn't run to Switzerland. If we had 10 tons of gold, I would run to Egon and give them 9 tons of it and say, here, store it in your vault. But I don't know, if you're talking 100, 200, 300 ounces, just find a safe area for it. People just don't be careful who you tell. Just, you got to be real careful. The best is not to tell anybody, or just your wife or something, or your kids, and that's it. And because the more people that know, the more risk you have. So just shut up, keep it safe, and you'll be all right. But here, these banks are collapsing. That's what, again, this is how I think, right? The Titanic hit the iceberg, and then it starts, water comes in, it sinks. You need to get to the lifeboat. The banks cannot get their loans. The banks are going to sink because they need the money. Where are they going to get their money? That's the only way banks make money, is by loaning their money and people paying back the loans. So they're not going to get it. There'll be a mass credit card problem. People won't be able to pay off their credit cards. So there'll be a mass problem with with Chase and Visa and all those trying to get money from their credit cards, right? So the banks are in big trouble. The only guy not in big trouble is the gold daddy and the silver daddy. And that's why they're going to explode. That's why we want to own more of it. But your dollar's worthless, and the banks are in big trouble, because you see all the used cars being repo. There's tons of cars sitting in lots that they got to pay insurance on. They got to drive around. There's maintenance, keep them clean, but they'll never sell them because people just don't have the money for it. Fortunately, my Camry, I've already paid it off. I bought it in 2018. I paid it off by 2021 because I know what's happening. So it's debt free, right? All I need to do is put gas in it and get an oil change once in a while and change tires and brakes and nickel dime stuff. But that's the key to it. So I advise you to pay off your cars as soon as possible. And soon you'll be able to buy a car real cheap because they can't sell any. Again, the market doesn't have the money to do it. All right, a little bit more of this.
Home revolution. And while working from home might be nice for your lifestyle, it is fatal for the bank's balance sheet. Think about the leverage. Commercial real estate runs on massive debt. A developer buys a building for $100 million. They put down $20 million of their own money, and they borrow $80 million from the bank. The rent covers the mortgage, the taxes, and the maintenance. If the rent drops by 20%, the profit is gone. If the rent drops by 40%, the owner can't pay the interest. If the rent drops by 50%, the equity is zero, and the bank is taking a loss. In St. Louis, the drop wasn't 50%. It was 98%. We call it jingle mail. It's an old term from the 2008 housing crash. You put the keys in an envelope, you mail them to the lender, you walk away. And now the bank owns a 44-story tower that is losing $1 million a month. The bank doesn't want the tower. The bank isn't a property manager. The bank wants the money, but the money is gone, vaporized. To truly understand why a 98% drop happens, we have to do a little math. Don't worry, it's simple, but it's terrifying. It's called the cap rate. In commercial real estate, the value of a building is determined by its income. The formula is value equals net operating income divided by the cap rate. The cap rate is basically the interest rate demanded by the buyer. It measures the risk. When interest rates are low, cap rates are low. In 2019, interest rates were zero. Money was free, so cap rates were maybe 4%. If a building made $1 million a year in rent, and the cap rate was 4%, the building was worth $25 million. But today, the world has changed. The Federal Reserve raised rates to 5%. Commercial mortgages are 8%. Nobody's going to buy a risky building for a 4% return when they can get 5% from a risk-free U.S. Treasury bill. It makes no sense. So investors demand a higher cap.
Did he just say get a Treasury bill? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So this is what bothers me about these videos. He just told me he's an idiot. Why would you get over 5% and think it's risk-free Treasury bill when the Treasury is worthless? The money's worthless. You again, the only answer is to go buy silver, and you're going to make a lot more than 5% risk-free. That's the only risk-free you have is gold and silver. Not a Treasury is not risk-free because the U.S. government is broke. The dollar is broke. So you're not going to get 5%. I can't believe you just said that. These idiots. It's really, that's the problem. When I hear them talk about printing money and then inflation, I turn it off. I can't. It's hard to listen because I know they're not intelligent. This guy just said he's an idiot. So a little bit more, but
rate to compensate for the risk, maybe 8% or 10%. Let's see what happens to the value of that same building. The building still makes $1 million if you're lucky. But now we divide by 8%. The value is now $12.5 million. The value just dropped by 50% just because interest rates moved. The building is the same, the tenants are the same, the paint is the same, but half the wealth just vanished into thin air. This is the power of the denominator effect. But wait, it gets worse because the tenants aren't the same. Vacancy is up, tenants are downsizing. Now do the math again. $500,000 divided by an 8% cap rate equals $6.25 million. The value dropped from $25 million to $6 million. That is a 75% crash. This is the double whammy. Higher rates plus lower income equals wipeout. This is the exact mathematical formula that destroyed the AT&T tower. This is exactly what is happening to every office building in America that was bought between 2010 and 2021. They are mathematically insolvent. This valuation collapse triggered an urban doom loop. It is a feedback loop from hell. And once it starts, it accelerates. It works like this. Step 1, the valuation crash. The building loses value. Step 2, the tax base implosion. Cities rely on commercial real estate for tax revenue. In places like Boston, New York, or Chicago, commercial property taxes make up 30% or 40% of the entire city budget. When the building is assessed at $3.6 million instead of $205 million, the property tax bill drops by 98%. The city collects nothing. Step 3, the service cuts. The city suddenly has a massive budget deficit, so they cut services, less police, less sanitation, worse schools. Step 4, the quality of life degrades. Crime goes up, homelessness rises. Step 5, the exodus. Businesses leave, residents leave. When the people leave, the local coffee shops close. Step 6, the vacancy spikes. Because everyone left, the vacancy rate goes up even further, and the cycle repeats, faster and faster. St. Louis is already deep in the doom loop. San Francisco is in the doom loop. San Francisco office values are predicted to fall another 40% by 2025. Think about that. They are already down, and they are going to fall another 40%. Once this cycle starts, you cannot stop it with a press release. You cannot stop it with optimism. It is mathematical gravity. And sitting right in the middle of this doom loop are the lenders, the regional banks. They lent money based on the $205 million valuation. They have a loan on their books for maybe $100 million. But the collateral is worth $3.6 million. Do the math on that equity. It's negative $96.4 million. That loan isn't an asset. It is a black hole. And the bank hasn't marked it down yet. They are reporting to the SEC that the loan is perming. They're reporting that they're well capitalized. How? How can they lose 98% of the collateral value and still claim they are solvent? Because of a little accounting trick called extend and pretend. They pretend the building is still worth $205 million. They extend the loan maturity for another year or two. They pray that interest rates come down. They pray that people come back to the office. They pray that a miracle happens. But miracles don't happen in finance. Math happens. And the math says we are hitting a wall, a $1.5 trillion wall. Here's the catalyst. Here's why this explodes now, and not 2 years ago. Commercial loans are short term, usually 5 years, maybe 10. They are balloon loans. You pay interest only for 5 years. Then, at the end, you have to pay back the entire principal, the whole $100 million. Usually, you don't pay it with cash. You refinance it. But here's the problem. The loans that are maturing right now, they were written in 2019 or 2020. Do you remember interest rates in 2020? They were near zero. You could borrow money for 3%. So developers borrowed billions, and they bought buildings at record high prices because the debt was cheap. Now those loans are coming due. The balloon payment is here, but interest rates aren't 3% anymore. They are 7% or 8%. The cost of debt has tripled, and the value of the building has collapsed. So the borrower goes to the bank to refinance. The bank says, okay, we can give you a new loan, but at 8% interest. And because your building is half empty, we can only lend you 50% of the value. The borrower does the math. The new mortgage payment is higher than the total rent roll. The new loan amount isn't enough to pay off the old loan. They are underwater, deeply underwater. So what do? They don't refinance, they default. They send the keys. Jingle mail. This is happening at a scale we have never seen before. There's over $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate debt maturing by the end of 2026. In 2025 alone, nearly $1 trillion is coming due. That is 20% of all outstanding commercial mortgages. A fifth of the entire market has to be refinanced into a crisis, into high rates, into falling values. into a recession. This is the maturity wall. It is a meat grinder for capital. And the people getting ground up aren't just the billionaire developers, it's the banks, specifically the regional banks. The banks where you keep your payroll, the banks where you keep your savings. The too big to fail banks, JP Morgan, Bank of America, they saw this coming. They reduced their exposure. But the regional banks, the local banks, they doubled down. They loaded the boat with commercial real estate loans because they needed the yield. And now the boat is sinking. You will hear the bankers say, "We are well reserved. Our loan to value ratios are conservative." They are lying to you. They have to lie. Because if they told the truth, there would be a bank run tomorrow morning. The truth is, they are technically insolvent. If they had to mark every single loan to its actual market value today, like the $3.6 million AT&T tower, their capital would be wiped out. Zero. Negative.
All right, so that's basically the banking system's worthless. How much trust do you have? So get your money the hell out. Do not put a safety deposit box with your gold and silver. So you see why more and more you need gold and silver, because they can't fuck with it. It's physical. That's why you buy physical and you hold it in a safe place. And that's the key to it. Money is worthless. These people want to play all these games with it, and then they can't get paid back, and then it's worthless, and they print it to zero. And so you're holding an asset that's not even an asset anymore. It's worthless. But you can still Rumpelstiltskin it. You can still go to the gold store, coin store, and go and trade worthless dollars for something of value. This is worth zero. This is worth 475 on its way up to 1,000 or 2,000. And that's just a tenth of an ounce one. That's the object. So just understand what's going on. The economy's screwed because of the inflation. The money's worthless. They printed it to zero. How do you have an economy? And then people, things go up in price because the money's worthless. So what happens is the money goes to zero. So it takes more dollars to go buy tuna fish and Coca-Cola and steaks and hamburgers. So your expenses have gone up because of the money being worthless. They're not raising prices. It's the dollar that's being worthless. So the dollar's losing value to nothing. That's why it takes more dollars to buy it. Therefore, you have less to go to the store and less to go on a vacation. And the company feels it because they sell less items, T-shirts or whatever. And then people can't afford cars. So the car companies, Ford, GM, start laying off because nobody's buying their car because they can't afford it because the money's worthless. So it all comes back to them printing the money to zero. And your only option is to get physical gold and put it in your pocket, not ETFs, not gold stocks, out of the stock market, sell your 401ks. You're much better off being in gold. Bitcoin, it's going down to 85. It's going to go all the way down. Even if it doesn't, let's say it goes to 25,000, doesn't matter because it's in dollars and the dollar's gone. And the key to this thesis is the dollar's worthless. You can't print it, and it's not backed by anything. And Bitcoin's even worse because it's not even real, and it's backed by dollars. If they do these stable coins, they're backed by dollars. Don't walk, but run away from them. Buy as much gold and silver as you can, and that will be your protection. It's the protection, but in a weird place, we also get a lot of value out of it. So that's the other key. Not only are we protected from holding dollars that go to zero, but by the way, gold and silver have huge demand, which raises the price on it. So we take $1,000 and buy $1,000 worth of gold, and then watch $1,000 go to zero, and watch $1,000 of gold go to 10,000. So it's a double whammy. We don't lose, and then we make, and it's the perfect center. It's the perfect storm. And this is all over the world. So the gold and silver price will go to the moon. And that's why the banks are buying it as much as they can. Comex is keeping this price fixing going because they want to buy more. It's as simple as that. The lower they keep the price, the more they can buy. So they try to do it, but BRICS keeps buying the gold and silver that they keep suppressing. So they haven't figured that out. And then they get caught shorting to get the price down, and they're fucked. So look for the bullion banks to go crap also. So we don't care about the banks, and we don't care about the stock market, and we don't care about Bitcoin. We just care about our babies, our gold and silver, and that's what's going to protect us. And our value will go 10, 20 times in value. So that's it. It's almost 3 hours. So I'm tired. Time to eat some lunch. Even though I ate pita during the class, it's hardly lunch. So have a good day. Again, tonight, I don't know. I really didn't play it. I played it under initially, and then I retracted it. I think it's an underplay. Philly with the strong defense, but you got Jalen Carter out. Hurts can't hit the broadside of a barn. Herbert with a broken left hand. So it's a lot of uncertainty. I still think San Diego has a pretty good defense. Philly with no offense at all. Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Prime Jr., they're all terrible quarterbacks. So it's hard. They both have 18 defenses. So I would say it's an under, and we'll go from there. So anyway, have a good day. www.teaserking.com is my home. And I look forward to explaining more tomorrow. So we'll see. I watched the YouTube to see but most of these people on YouTube are idiots. They just don't get it. Even Alistair McCloud doesn't get it. Egon's the only one that I share with you because he gets it. But even sometimes he doesn't get that everything's priced in paper in comex, not physical. So that's the key, understanding the gold and silver price are not physical yet, but they will be, and that will raise them 10 times. So anyway, go to the gold store, go buy, and that's about it. So have a great day, everybody. www.teaserking.com. All right. Enjoy. See you tomorrow.